Okay, good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the North Branford Conservation and Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency to order. This meeting on Wednesday, August 28, 2019 at approximately 6:40 p.m. First thing I'd like to do is call to order and do a roll call. We have regular members to my left, Bill Gadenzi, Frank Brigano, and Jerry Fishbeck. And to my right, we have Recording Secretary Mary Caruso. We have Town Planner Carrie Duquez and Wetlands Administrator. I'm Steve Scavo. I'll be acting chairman for this evening's meeting. Next thing we want to do is we want to amend the agenda to add an item.
Right. So under 6A, we'll have the first item instead of 2019-12. It'll be 2019-17.
Okay.
It's for 418 Forest Road, which I believe could be reviewed by myself as the duly authorized agent, but I just wanted to run it by the commission.
That's fine. We'll add it in and we can check it there. So we just need a motion to add that in,
Yes,
right?
please.
So someone will make a motion to amend the agenda to add 2019-17.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to add 2019-17 418 Forest Road under item A.
Okay, we have a second.
I second.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thanks. All in favor? Aye, okay. So done. All right, next thing we can do is move on to the minutes of May 22nd, 2019, which was a site walk, and then a meeting on July 24th, 2019. I checked, and I believe we have members here that were at both, so.
I have corrections to the meeting minutes of July 24th.
Okay.
The meeting minutes of July 24th need to be corrected. On the bottom of page 1, it says, I approve of approval of agenda. It states that I moved and second to amend the agenda. I think Jerry was the other person.
Oh, yeah.
And
One-man show.
Yeah, it was a one-man
There
show.
you go. Here we go.
And
Way to
then,
go.
Taking over, huh?
then I believe that the agenda should not be under minutes, or should it be under minutes? As far as approval, shouldn't it be a separate section?
Yes, a separate section.
So that should be under that should be a new number 4, agenda approval, as opposed to where it is. So all the numbering has to be changed.
Okay. So noted. Anything else anyone has to offer about the minutes?
No.
Other than Frank's revisions, which Carrie's taken care of. Are we okay with everything? Okay. I guess we'll do one at a time. Do we have a motion to approve the May 22nd, 2019?
I move to approve the minutes with the changes mentioned by Frank.
Okay. And sidewalking meeting on July 24th, 2019, that was the, right, that was the, I think that was where your changes were. Actually, both.
No,
You made
mine
them
were on the
both.
meeting minutes of July 24th.
24th, right. Okay.
But the other one was, the site visit was the other day.
Right,
whatever
right.
That is, the 22nd is the site walk. May 22nd is the site
Okay.
walk.
So we'll start with the May 22nd. Was for the minutes from that, or is everyone, if we're okay, we'll just need a,
We can approve both.
we can do both at once, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess we could, yeah, so we just need it. So we have a well, you made a motion, we approved, seconded by Bill.
Sure.
Did Bill second it, or no?
No, I was abstain. I wasn't the
Oh,
present.
I'll
right,
second
right.
it, I'll
Okay.
second it, because I was here.
Gotcha, okay. All right, then, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, then both minutes,
Abstain.
sidewalk and meeting on July 24th and the 22nd are all set.
Would you mind signing these while I just
Sure.
have them?
Sure.
So
Sure, let me just read in the next one. I will sign them and get right back to you. So we're going to move on to item 4, new business. Actually, Section A, IWWA 2019-16, site plan for work completed without a permit, which includes creation of a boulder wall along the Farm River, impacting approximately 200 square feet of regulated area at 261 Tucket Road. Application received July 24th, 2019.
okay, so I actually expected the property owner to attend the meeting, but I don't see him here. This is for the work that we identified as occurring without a permit going back to July of last year. So this is right on the Farm River. There's a large boulder wall that was installed. I'll pass these pictures down. So this is from last July. This is what the property had looked like prior to any work being done. I'm not sure of the exact date of that, but I believe it was in the fall or winter of 2017.
So there's an installation of a culvert too, a pipe?
That was back in July.
Okay.
So they had done some work to try and kind of clear that area because that was a bypass portion of the Farm River when it overflows. So there was a cease and desist that I issued July 30th of 2018, and we had requested that the property owner complete an application and submit engineering plans and drawings showing that the work that he had done complied with our regulations and also didn't have any adverse impact on the downstream properties. But you'll remember that he said that he doesn't have any funding. He was waiting for insurance money to help fund this. So at the last meeting that we had just last month in July, he came to the meeting and told the commission that it wasn't that he didn't want to do the work, but again, he has no funding. He has not done any work since then. So we did have a site visit today, and because of the tall grass and everything, he had asked that maybe fewer people go than the whole commission. So Jerry and I went out there this afternoon, and it did not appear that any additional work had been done. It's really overgrown. The walls, from what we could see, seems to be intact. And the area that had eroded and kind of collapsed behind his house looks exactly as it did last July. So he has a tarp hanging down.
How about is the overflow area new though, since last July?
No, nothing has
'Cause
changed.
I remember
So
there was some
Except
work
the weeds.
activity.
they had put that dirt back because they had
Okay, yeah.
kind of removed it and created
Yep.
big piles to bring in the boulders. That's all been kind of restored,
Okay.
and it's functioning.
Yep, gotcha. Okay.
It's just all on his property it's just eroding away.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it looked pretty precarious last time.
Yeah, it is. They do have it kind of barricaded off as best as they can, so no one could get there from another property. It's just from their own property.
That's across the street.
And this is the brick, the stones he
He
puts
did
in.
that all the way around here, and his house is up there.
So, I'm sorry, that culvert that stuck in my mind, is that something he put in, or is that something he
It
took out?
was there, and he was trying to restore it as part of this project. He ended up just covering the area back over, but it's still functioning, as far as I know, and he has not done any additional work.
This is the
But
flat area here, and then it goes
If I
up
remember
to his
that,
house, that blue tarp.
this
all right
overflow,
there.
or that with that
And
it's
it's-
full debris, that's why
the
you
blue
cleaned it
tarps
out,
are still
right?
there.
Right. So I mean, when
Right.
what we saw was cleaned out, from what I remember, it looked like it actually would function as what it was
Right.
supposed to. But,
Right.
okay.
And the lumber, the debris is just tossed around, or is that?
It's just fallen down the embankment.
That was,
If you look at the picture from last July, it almost hasn't changed where those 2x4s are.
And it looks like he was using those just to kind of stabilize and hold the tarps down and try to keep.
Well, I think he was hoping to build those up and then backfill it with some material, but he never got to that point because of lack of funding. And probably lack of a permit as well.
I think that's when we kind
So,
of
right.
discovered it, right? He did the lower part, the stones and everything we saw. I remember, right, very clearly what he did there. Some of the pictures.
and we were all pretty impressed with the lower part.
I was amazed
Yeah.
how, and you look at a year later, it looks
Yeah.
like nothing's happened. I mean, it was done, without a permit, but it actually
It's
looks
solid.
like it's solid, like it'll stay there.
Some large boulders. I
Yeah.
think.
Huge rocks, but they were put in
Yeah,
really
exactly.
tight.
But I think
Right.
that will mitigate a flooding situation. I can understand his pain, and
Yeah.
we don't support doing that without a permit.
His pain now is to try to stabilize the hillside coming down
Right.
to that flat portion. And he says the insurance company won't work with him, and the insurance company, he feels that they should because it protects the property as far as the bank is concerned.
Did you talk to him today?
Yeah.
Oh, you did, okay,
Yeah,
so he
we did talk to him
Because I
today.
do remember his idea, his thing last time was the same, to put a retaining wall on the upper side, because there's dirt, I mean, it's literally 5 feet from
Right.
that corner of his house.
But I mean, when we were there last year, everything, or was it the year before?
It was 2018, was it?
Yeah, last year. for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, the place looked pretty nice, and now it's all overgrown,
Without-
and it just looks like a disaster area now, but
Yeah.
physically, nothing's changed other than growth of weeds and,
But I would think the lower part, which would be more prone to moderate flooding, is stabilized, but the high part is, I mean, we've probably taken an incredible rainfall to
Right.
get hit that, but I mean, eventually, he's gonna have issues, I guess.
And it seems, I mean, he took the cease and desist seriously enough that he wouldn't even cut the weeds.
Oh, okay, well.
Oh, is that why the weeds are
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that?
he didn't touch
Yeah.
anything
Well,
since the last time we
I
saw him.
mean,
And those 4x4s or 6x6s are laying exactly where they were last year, and nothing's changed. And he's got the embankment tarped to try to prevent some further erosion.
So what are we trying to do now? Is we trying to end this, and then he's done, he's not gonna do anything else without an application?
to cover.
Or,
Work and then
I mean,
work.
is this, because I have issues with his application, because he says, on the first page, he redirected the river to prevent serious erosion. And on the second page, he said he didn't alter the water course. So if you redirect the river, you alter the water course, right?
Mhm. I mean, he redirected it in the sense of adding to the embankment, you know, so instead of having it come closer to his house, he, pushed it farther away. I think the bigger issue is that he doesn't have any plans associated with it. Set a bad precedent of accepting an application that's not complete, but also, I don't know what you'd approve, because you don't wanna say you're okay with it if there's no professional saying that it's okay.
So we're gonna end up with a stalemate, basically, right?
Well, or you could deny it, which, what I would recommend is denying it because it's incomplete and you have a cease and desist recorded on the land records. So keep the cease and desist in place, and then, he was talking about selling the property or just, I don't know what, but, it would be recorded on the land records, and so it would have to be resolved by the next
Yeah,
owner.
he was actually saying that he was gonna walk away from the property, there's no equity in it, he was just gonna walk away and give it back to the bank.
Oh.
So it may not even be him we're dealing with.
So the problem gets kicked down the
Right.
road,
Right.
down the road.
But now he's paid a fee for that, right? I mean,
What's that?
for his application fee, did he pay that already or no?
He is not.
Oh, okay, so
No.
there's no incentive, okay.
No.
I see.
I mean, and I did talk with him on the phone about that, saying, which I felt bad about, because I'm like, I understand you can't afford this, but could you pay $200 for your fee? And he said, well, yeah, I can do that, but I expected him here tonight, but he is not here, so.
It just sounds like, since what you're telling me, he's planning to just move on and it's gonna be there, yeah.
He
Why would he pay anything if he's
In
that
his
simple?
words, he feels it's a really dangerous situation with the embankment coming down so close to his house. And he hasn't got the funds to get engineering plans and this and that and do it the way we would like it done. And, he's just fed up. Does that about sum it up?
Mhm.
Well, he can't be fed up with us.
No,
He's just fed up with the situation.
He's
Okay,
fed
that I
up
understand.
really with the insurance company. He
Right,
feels that
okay.
they should be helping him with this.
If they could have come through and resolved,
He-
given
then
the
he
funds to
would've-
do it,
he
he would have
would've
fixed
worked
it and we
with
would
us.
have, right.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, I mean, I understand that. Why he feels the way he does, I guess.
So you need a motion to deny?
Yes.
Okay.
So
If that's-
I'll make a motion to deny application 219-16, site plan for work completed without a permit, which includes creation of a boulder wall along the Farm River impacting approximately 200 square feet of regulated area at 261 Tutucket Road.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay? All right,
Do you also wanna
motion denied.
Just have a motion to maintain the cease and desist.
Oh, okay.
Let
Which
me
is
do it.
recorded on the land
Let me
records.
be
Sure, must make a
consistent.
separate one, yeah.
And then I may also make a motion for IWA 2019-16 to maintain the cease and desist in place for site work completed without a permit
Do we have a
at
second?
261
Sorry.
Pawtucket Road.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved.
I feel really bad about this one, but there's nothing else we could do.
See, I don't see the insurance company has anything to do with it. It's not the house.
All right, let's move on to item B, which is IWWA 2019-3, site plan for construction of an active adult community, including 103 detached single-family homes, and 3 apartment buildings consisting of approximately 100 units, clubhouse, in-ground pool, tennis courts, associated roads, stormwater drainage, extension of sanitary sewer, public water, communications, electric and gas utilities. Proposed work will result in the filling of approximately 11,690 square feet of wetlands, 900 square feet of a water course, and alteration of approximately 9 acres of 100-foot wetland upland review area at 50 Fowler Road. Application received July 24th, 2019.
So, in your packet was the application. There's these half-size plans here, which we can pass down, but also there's wetlands functions and values assessment, and also wetland creation plan and planting details. So I did not include these in your packet because there's additional information that is needed, which I listed in your
Okay.
packet, in my comments. So some of the key things, obviously, are the details about the impact area. I don't think those plans have the 100-foot line marked on these plans, but you have them this evening. And then stormwater details. So the hope is to meet with the engineer and the town engineer and myself to go over everything prior to having you all look at it, so we have comments for them and can give you all an insight into
So hopefully we'll
where
have
things
that,
stand.
you'll have the information, and we'll have a chance to look at it before the next meeting, which, is that what you're saying here?
So that's what the goal is.
That's our goal.
Okay, you just identify yourself for the record, just because you're up there.
Yep.
It's okay.
For the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor.
Great,
Also
thank you.
with me tonight is David Lord,
Yeah.
a certified professional soil scientist and wetland scientist.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
This is the latest, I've seen this so many times, I'm getting confused almost, because I'm on planning and zoning. Did you present this at planning and zoning, this updated plan?
No.
This is all brand,
No.
this is
This is all brand new. What
This is
you've
new.
seen at planning and zoning was relating to the zone change.
Yeah, okay, right.
So this,
Sorry.
this is these
Right,
are the
this is it.
detailed plans relating to the wetlands impacts
Yep. Gotcha.
for the actual construction.
Okay,
So,
gotcha. Yep,
so
thank you.
ultimately, what we're challenged with in the next couple months is, first of all, for the applicant to give all the information that Carrie and
Yeah.
Kurt have asked for, which you say you don't have it all at this moment.
Right.
But you're working with the applicant to get that information. You'll be meeting to get that?
Yes, so,
Next week.
Next week, okay. And then after we get all that, they get, Carrie and Kurt are happy, they're gonna have to get it to us, because we know what a huge, for anyone who's here for the first go-around with this, I mean, it's a huge project. You can't just look at stuff tonight and decide, well, it's significant, I mean,
Yep, I agree with that.
my gut would say it would be, but I think in fairness to everyone here, I think Jerry was the only one here for the first go-around, right? You were on the sidewalks and part of that.
I was on a
Were you there, Frank,
sidewalk.
too?
I was on a sidewalk for this years ago, right? Yeah.
Were you, okay, Frank.
since
sure.
I've been here,
No, I think it was when.
before, when Carol was here.
Wasn't it? Didn't we go on one with
It
Carol?
started with
Yeah.
Carol.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay, yes, you were, okay,
Yeah.
then, okay.
So I remember it was all, that was, the issue back then was the bringing in of soil from other areas, right? And bringing in of,
Well, that was.
No, that was a
much
violation.
later.
That was a violation.
That was
Yeah.
for-
that was,
Because
that
I
was
was
that
here for
property.
that.
That was the
That was
site.
that-
Yeah, I was here for that.
Yes.
That was that property.
You're absolutely,
Yes, this is-
but the actual application, the original one
Yeah.
was done about, I think, 8-9 years ago.
Oh, I wasn't here for
Yeah,
that.
that's why I want to get you clear, it wasn't,
That long.
yes.
I was on P and Z, but not on this.
Yes, you probably were aware of it, you probably saw
Yeah.
the planning and zoning part of it.
Yep.
So the point is that the goal here is to get that information, and then we'll have to look at it, hopefully for the next meeting, and then make a determination of a significant activity. And then schedule a public hearing if we decide that's the case, so. That's kind of the plan we're on.
Yeah, well, there was a public hearing for the first proposed project on this property 9
Yes,
years ago.
right.
Right.
But this is totally new and everything, so we'll
Totally
have to
new,
start
but-
again,
Yeah.
yes.
But just as large a scope.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
and I think there seems to be significant changes in activity that I think
Yeah.
we all need to take time to digest it and look at it, so.
Out of curiosity, were there any conclusions in zoning as far as rezoning the property?
That was approved, the age-restricted housing development, is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, what was the previous zoning of that property? Was it?
It's still industrial.
Yeah.
It's still, the underlying zone,
Yeah.
stop me if I go wrong, is still industrial. But the application that you saw, I believe, was an application to drop, so to speak, an age-restricted housing development overlay zone on a portion of this land.
Just
About 14 acres or so, almost 15 acres or so.
And then 2 additional parcels were purchased that have frontage on Notch Hill Road. So
That was
those
an
are
all
also.
access, that was all
I
access
can
in that.
explain, yeah, I'll explain
All
that.
right, that's fine.
But that was the zoning action.
So does this conform, the zoning now, does it conform to any of our other, like R40, R80, I2, I1, B1, B2? Is any of that in existence now on this property, or is it something completely new?
So the 14 acres that have that zone that was dropped on top of it, which is the age-restricted housing district, that is a higher density than what's allowed in an R40.
Okay.
The rest of the site, so the other 80 acres, is still I2. So you can do elderly housing.
So is the site 94 acres?
It's at 90 acres, approximately
90
90
acres?
acres. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So,
And when I read in your application, there were 3 buildings of apartments, approximately 100 units?
yes, sir.
And was that 100 units per building, or
Total,
total?
in total.
So about 30-something units per building?
Correct, correct. Yeah, I'll, if it's okay, I'll give you a very brief, so you'll have a better understanding of the differences and what's happened here.
Okay, well, yeah, I just say to give a full-blown presentation, I would not
We won't.
recommend it, just because.
We will not.
Okay, but if you want to take 10 minutes and kind of give us an overview real quick, because we really can't get into specifics till we see everything.
Totally understand.
Okay.
What I'd like to get out of what you're gonna do is understanding the impact on the wetlands.
Right.
Because how I read your application is you're taking out a significant amount of wetlands, changing the water course, and you're only replacing that with a minimal amount of wetlands. So I want to get to understand why it's not more instead of less.
Right.
Because in the previous project, it was
It
actually
should
much
be-
more.
It should be more, not less.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll try to answer your
All right.
questions. Yeah. So this that's on the board, I have copies for you, because I thought it'd be a lot easier if you lay, if you have it in front of you.
Yeah, I can't even see that.
You can't, may have trouble with this too, but the important parts are in color. So hopefully this will.
We can share. We can share.
I understand, you guys eat cookies.
Yeah,
If you want a cookie, you can have one.
We have a little help from
That's
Mexico.
Mary.
There you go.
So I'll do this,
Must be the two times.
I'll try to do this as quickly as I can.
Well, just, because we know we're going to be going into a lot, right, but if you want to give that would be a benefit to us now, just to get an idea of what we're getting into here.
Exactly, and please stop me if you have a question while I'm talking, and Dave, jump in. 90-acre site, about 28 acres of wetlands overall. Planning and zoning process, all done. A major difference, so 110 round numbers detached residential dwelling units, and then 3 apartment buildings, about 33 apartments each. That's the 100 apartments that we talked about earlier. One of the major differences between this application and the previous application is, Carrie mentioned it, the applicant purchased 2 single-family residential homes on Notch Hill Road. And if you look, I can come up if you can't.
Is that where we see the road, the new entrance, obviously,
Yes.
which wasn't there before, so
Correct.
we assume it's this one here, correct? Okay.
Major difference in the product, that's one of the major differences
Okay.
between this application and the previous application.
I don't want to split hairs, Kerry, maybe just to make a clarification. Planning and zoning approved the zone change. We still need to see the site plan.
Correct.
So just clarify, because
Oh, absolutely.
you need this approval before we
For
can approve
wetland,
it.
wetlands before, right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, let me,
yeah, just
to
for
be
everyone's
clear,
edification,
just
because
to
you,
be clear, before we could even make this application to your commission,
yeah,
we had to go through a text amendment
Right.
application and a map amendment. And that's what I meant by planning, that's what planning is
Okay. Yeah,
approved.
I just-
We
Right.
have, still, of course, have to submit a special permit application to the planning zone.
Mhm.
Right. But this has to come, we understand this has to
Yeah.
come first, our approval. Gotcha.
So access to the site now, because of these newly acquired parcels on Notch Hill Road, the main entry will be from on Notch Hill Road, and it still has access out to Fowler as the previous application did. As you should be able to see that on the drawings. hopefully.
That's what that's the major
And-
switch.
The wetland impact areas, there are 5 in those purple boxes, and they're numbered 1 through 5, if you can see those.
Mhm.
Okay.
I see
So,
one.
yeah, I see
Call
1,
it
2,
line.
3,
Phase 1.
4, 5 over here.
3,
Jerry.
Yeah,
phase
no,
2.
The wetland.
Wetlands
impact
4,
areas.
here they are, 5, 4. Here they go, 3, 1,
That's the
2.
circle area.
oh, the
So
circles.
these circles, they're mostly in the roadway, it looks like.
Well,
Yeah.
there's
Ah.
basically a ditch between Fowler Road and the entrance that.
Right, so those
Yeah.
5 wetland impact areas are direct wetland impacts. Of course, there are other potential impacts from stormwater runoff.
When you say direct, like bridges and roadways over over areas that, okay, gotcha.
Activity in the wetlands.
Gotcha.
So there's 5 areas of activity directly in the wetland. And those are the 5 that are identified.
Okay.
4 of those are the same as the previous application. I'll explain a little bit more. And one of them is new.
Okay.
So starting with numbers 1 and 2 are sanitary sewer, temporary sanitary sewer crossings. Number 1 is a temporary crossing of a tributary to Munger Brook. And number 2 is the actual crossing of Munger Brook.
Here's number 1.
This is sanitary sewer crossing, sanitary sewer crossing.
Yep,
This
we
is-
see it.
Yeah.
Yep, 1 and 2.
Gotcha.
Where's the other one?
1 and 2.
Yeah, but these are sanitary sewers.
Correct.
Okay,
Those are-
where's the Munger Brook one?
Munger Brook is number 2.
Oh, okay, so that's here, all right.
Yes. And those crossings
It's
were
running this way.
part of
See right here.
the previous
That's good.
application and were previously approved.
Okay.
So they're the same activity. I slightly shifted their locations to minimize the length of the actual wetland disturbance, but they're essentially in the same place as they were in the previous application. And those are what we consider temporary impacts. They'll be impacted directly when the construction's being done, but when the construction is all done and the wetland and the water courses are restored, they'll go back to their natural condition. So we consider those as deep, and the Corps of Engineers does, temporary impacts. So that's impact numbers 1 and 2. I just want to make sure I get the numbers right. Number 3 and 4. Number 3 is when you first come in off of Fowler Road.
Yeah.
And number 4 is the old trolley line crossing, if
Oh.
you can find it.
Right here.
4 is right here. The circle right there.
Those are, again, the same impact areas as the previous application.
Okay.
So those are, both of those, this is, I think, important to note, both of those impact areas are roadway crossings of water courses. And again, they're the same crossings that were part of the previous application and were approved. The reason that they are new, so they exist today. The reason, you'll see them when we do the sidewalk, the reason we're doing work on them is to conform, make those crossings conform to the Corps of Engineers chiefly permit program requirements for culverted or bridged roadway water course crossings. So that's why we're doing work on this. We have to upgrade them, basically. For instance, in number 4 at the old trolley crossing, there's an 18-inch pipe there today. We have to take that out and put in a 16-inch pipe. And at number 3, at the entrance from Fowler Road, there is a 30-inch pipe, and we have to take that out and put in a box culvert, an 8-foot span by 5-foot rise box culvert. So those 4 impact areas are, the first 2 sanitary crossings are temporary, and the same as the previous application. The next 2 are roadway crossings, and same as the previous application, but we have to update that. The last one is a new impact area, and that is number 5.
Right here.
You can see that. And that is a fill. No, it's not a roadway crossing of the wetland. It's the proposed roadway goes by the tip and head of the wetland, and because we have to raise the grade, we're filling a portion of the wetland. That's a brand new impact area that was not previously approved in the previous application.
So you're saying there's no really piping through there, it's not restricting the flow of?
Correct. There's no water course, I should say.
Okay.
It's what we term a fringe fill of the wetland, where the wetlands on my left, we're running by the wetland with the road, and when we slope down, we're filling the wetland.
That's my concern. Well, that's where we have to see these, because, if there's sheet flow there and you're obstructing it, we might want to, but I take your word for it for now. Right.
We did look at this area where the proposed
we
off
did.
of Frederick Street.
Right, we did walk in there, I do
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
but we'll
Yeah.
get refreshed.
So these 5 areas that you point out, that totals 12,000 square feet of wetland impact?
I'd have to add, Carrie must have added it up, it probably does, I'd have to add it up.
That's what's in the application.
Yeah, I'm sure it does, I could add it, but I'm sure it does.
Okay.
So, so those are the 5 direct wetland impacts areas. Another significant difference to note between this application and the previous is, previously there was an emergency access drive off the corner, right at the bend of Frederick Street, if you recall, and there was a crossing.
I think that's the
of
old trolley train.
wetlands
Right, yeah.
constructed and approved as part of that application. We've been able to remove that, because now we don't need that, because now we have 2 points of access.
Right.
One from 22, one from Fowler.
Which you didn't have
We don't
before,
need that
right?
anymore, so that crossing goes away.
Okay.
So that's a brief explanation of the 5 direct wetland impact areas. We are, by the way, having, Dave has been out and has been rehanging wetland flags in preparation for your walk. We are also going to stake the center line of the road with stations, so you'll be able to relate the plan to where you're standing.
That's good.
And we can look at,
Well, that's
of
good.
course, these 5,
Yeah.
direct wetland impact areas.
Yeah, when we get out there, it'll be a big walk, so we want to see everything.
We
fly
understand it
correctly,
might be
yeah.
more than one walk.
Right,
Yeah,
probably,
I guess,
yes.
but, yeah.
Quick question, off of Phase 1, where it actually says Phase 1, was that a proposed retention pond in there?
No.
No, I thought there was one in the original application somewhere in that area, and I thought off from that there was actually proposed recreation of more wetlands in that area.
There might have been, I'll check, there probably was, yeah. Yeah, I'll explain this scenario.
Okay.
Let me talk about phasing and construction access just really quickly.
Sorry,
So-
before you go into that, so you talked about the direct wetland impacts. Can you just explain so that they understand the blue and the green lines?
Yes, that's where.
Oh, that's where you're going?
That's where I'm headed.
Okay.
Good, thank you, because that was my next question too, just so we can understand what that means.
Yeah, so you can see why I broke it down. Those are the direct are actually, we're actually filling or working in the wetland. So, the plan is, and then I'm now heading towards that answer for Carrie. The plan is to have all construction traffic come from the Fowler Road entrance. No construction traffic will come from 22. More important to planning and zoning, I'm sure, but you should know that. And the plan is to come all the way in from Fowler and work backwards out to Fowler. You can see from those phase numbers, phases 1, 2, 3, that's how it'll work. It'll back its way out.
So I assume that's the order of the construction, is it what, I mean, it
Just
goes.
so you
Start
Right, gotcha.
construction here.
But he says he's backing out.
But why
You're
is-
coming into, on 22 to
Come
the phase one.
Fowler. All construction comes to Fowler.
Through
We'll
Fowler.
start here, 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 and then back out,
Or
back out.
So you'll never, 22 won't see construction
Trucks moving in and out of there, that
neighborhood.
neighborhood, okay, everything will come through Fowler.
Fowler to
Okay.
the.
Oh, I see. So you're gonna use this as road here as your access.
So,
Okay.
where you have phase one where the pond is, that's part of phase one that's lower? So is this a temporary road, or that's the sewer line, correct?
Right, so in phase one, we have to construct a whole sewer line. And it's probably easier, and I tried to show it in phase one, that's what Carrie was looking at, that it looked like a road, but this is the route of the sanitary sewer
Okay,
out to follow.
that's not a road then, okay, gotcha,
Correct.
that's just to get,
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
Okay.
has to be part of phase one. I tried to shade it to show that it was included in phase one, but I have another way to make this clearer to you, I think.
And then the sanitary
Right.
sewer for phase 2 and 3 is gonna be under the roadway?
Yes, so that
Circles
cross-country
around, there's
sewer,
like-
as we
there's
call
no
it,
roads
has
over
to
here.
be going in phase one. In addition, we have to build the stormwater management basin in phase one. And that stormwater management basin, you can see here, it's at the low part of the site, the western.
That's,
western-
phase one is right on top of that basin, is what we're assuming, right? On the map here, so that's,
The basin is gonna be part of phase one, so we need to build, when they first.
I mean, the location, it looks like it's located right, okay.
So when the reason to build that in phase one is, so today, you'll see this when you go out there, there's a temporary sediment basin there today. We need to expand that and turn it into a constructed wetland for stormwater management purposes. And that needs to be in place as the construction backs out, so that stormwater runoff can be directed to it. Initially, it will function as a temporary sediment basin larger than the one that's there today. But ultimately, it will be a constructed wetland. So when it's all said and done, and Dave can explain this, it will be a constructed, stormwater wetland.
So that'll be on a future plan, but we understand the gist of it, okay, gotcha, we don't have to go into that now, but that's what the.
Yes.
That's what you were asking earlier.
Yeah, isn't that what I asked
Yeah.
earlier, although I called it a retention basin?
Yeah.
It's just
but-
in a different location than what you had.
You said phase one.
indicated
Yeah, I
previously.
said
You were saying phase
where
one.
it says phase one by the Fowler
If you
Road.
come over, yeah, because we just wanted,
Yeah.
we're just.
I'm sorry.
that's
No,
okay.
my
No, no.
question was, is this, yeah.
Is that the
Oh, I'm
location
sorry.
of the?
And then,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then the original
Right, we
proposal.
said phase, when we meant actual, is it, no,
I thought you were
no.
talking about here.
Yeah,
No, no.
and then.
I thought I was hearing something
Yeah.
different. I'm
So,
like,
so the original proposal showed wetlands being created through this area here,
Right.
but,
We are,
Yeah, we'll get to
and we
that.
are creating
Right.
wetlands. Actually,
Yes.
we're right up against the wetland down there.
Yeah.
Right, but
Okay.
so that'll be consistent with.
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
gotcha,
All right.
all right, that makes sense.
Now we're on the same
Now we
page.
understand, yeah.
that's all
Good
right.
memory, Jerry.
Yeah.
So the way, all runoff from the road, the whole road network will go to this stormwater management basin, the buildings, the individual dwellings, the roof water will be discharged to infiltration systems to the ground.
Okay.
There are sidewalks along the road. The sidewalks and the road run off, and the driveways, all the buildings, the driveways ascend, they climb up to the garage. So when you pull off the road and you enter your unit, you climb up a bit. So the driveways drain back down to the road, and the sidewalks drain to the road. The buildings, the roof water will not go to the stormwater management basin. It will be, like I said, it will be discharged to individual infiltration systems to the ground and the ground surface. And this is going to answer Carrie's specific question. I've tried to carefully align the roadways so that when the units are built, they are, with the exception of 3 areas, there's no hard construction, meaning a building pavement within 50 feet of an inland wetland, with 3 exceptions, and I'll show you. So I did my best to align, starting with the alignment of the roads, where the roads fall, and then seeing where the units would fall, aligning those roads so that the units would not be within 50 feet of the wetlands. And the green line, if you can see it on your drawings, is 50 feet offset from the wetland boundary. The blue line is 100 feet.
Okay, that makes sense now. Okay.
So there are 3 exceptions, and I can show you next time, but there are 2 places where buildings are within 50 feet, and there's part of the tennis court is within 50 feet.
We can do, that's, yeah, that would be fine, because we understand, at least you.
That was the general goal.
Yeah, no, that's good. We're gonna examine everything, so, but we understand.
There were one more major difference. If you recall, there were a lot of retaining walls in the previous application.
Right.
We eliminated all but one, and it is at the clubhouse, pool, and tennis court location. And we can get into the details of that next time. So all the retaining walls on the site have gone away except for that one location.
So this is just a general question, comparing old to new, that's very helpful, especially for us that remember that. Would you say the impact of the wetlands is, I know, not counting the direct in the 5 locations, would you say the overall impact of the wetlands is it increased, decreased, or somewhat the same?
I don't know. I have to study those previous plans.
Fair, that would be a question that we'd ask, because, again, we have the old plan, if it was a new plan, it'd be one thing, but at least we have to know, just it'd be nice to know what the differences were, which you nicely told some of us about the crossings. It's good to know, old versus new, so, okay.
Yeah, I'll give you an answer to that.
Good.
So that's really very briefly, that's it. I have to apologize to the commission. I tried to meet with Carrie and Kurt. I couldn't. I had to cancel before this meeting. I've got to meet with them next week and get them a better, complete set of drawings so that they can go through it and make sure all their comments are addressed, and then they will come to you. So we talked earlier about trying to set the meeting earlier next week.
So is it worth it even for us to look at these packets? Is there any value to this if they're not correct?
Oh, they're correct. Those reports, they're correct.
And
It's just additional
Oh, I
information.
would look at the plans.
But
Yeah,
this
the plans
is,
and the reports, yes.
so, but again, can you talk about, since you're up here, when I look at this report, it says that you're going to create 3,300 square feet of wetlands, at least on page 3, but you're taking out 1,100 square feet. On the application, it talks about almost 12,000 square feet of wetlands impacted plus water course. I want to see more put back than taken out, and I don't see it with this. How are you going to put, how are you going to restore or create wetlands to offset what you're taking out?
So Dave will explain that. I didn't explain that
That's why I'm wondering if this is worth reading or not, if it's not gonna explain how you're adding wetlands back.
It's definitely worth reading.
I mean, Dave doesn't have to give his presentation tonight, just to say, because you're gonna have to do it
To
again
answer your
anyway.
question, what you're looking at, the wetland creation document strictly addresses the
First phase?
level of impact off of Notch Hill Road.
So
That
the-
document only addresses this area here. It does not address the other.
All right, well, that helps. That's why I was
Because
wondering.
those numbers, at the time that document was put together, wasn't set as far as square footage. So
Okay.
you're going to get additional wetland mitigation, and we're going to be utilizing as much of the previous wetland creation measures to offset and balance and slightly increase on-site wetlands
Okay.
versus what we're impacting. And we're gonna focus in this northern and near the stormwater wetland system. A similar type of plan that we previously, I was on the development team with the previous application. So those philosophies are gonna be followed through with this application. It's just that things have changed a little bit. The size of the structures got much larger due to the requirements of Connecticut Deep and the Army Corps of Engineers. The size of the culvert openings have dramatically gotten larger than what was done and approved and appropriate at that time. They're now looking at, those two agencies are now not only looking at the hydraulic capacity of the culvert, but they're actually looking for a larger opening area for wildlife passage through the structure. So the wildlife moving down a wetland and watercourse corridor do not have to go up onto the road, back down to travel. They can actually go through the opening under the road.
That's,
And again,
that's
that's a
great.
requirement that we have to meet for Connecticut Deep and the Army Corps of Engineers permitting that will be required because of the fact that the crossings are in water
And then the
resources.
area to the left, going towards Foxton Road past that phase one piece, yeah, all that area there, is that gonna remain natural the
That's
way it
gonna
is
stay
today?
as is.
Okay.
What we're going to do from a wetland creation standpoint is look at areas like this, which is just to the north of the sewer trunk line, an upland area where we can create a connection to existing wetlands adjacent to it, but take upland area by excavation lower and expose the underlying water table condition and create wetlands in those areas of
Okay.
the site.
Okay,
Are you gonna have
Same
us,
philosophy that we had before, just in different locations, because again, this area is now the stormwater wetland, we have to change those locations.
are you gonna have an additional reports for these other areas?
Yes, there will be an addition, what you will probably get is one revision, but it will incorporate
Everything.
the other wetland creation
Yes.
measures. This one has, the one that you got now has one measure.
Right.
You're gonna have at least two, well,
So the revision will
the
include
revision
everything?
will include all
Everything.
on-site mitigation.
Right,
okay.
that's what I'd like to
And
see.
philosophically, it should be the same across the board in terms of your approach?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it will be the same. And just to reiterate, I did the original wetland flagging back in 2006. I've gone back and walked the site extensively, flagged the wetlands along the eastern side, reflagged actually from scratch the wetlands along the eastern side of the site. Found a lot of the knots from the original flagging out there. Couldn't see any numbers, couldn't tell where you were at from a number standpoint, but a lot of those knots were still there, which proves that the blue plastic flagging has gotten a little better.
You're already,
Makes things a little bit
I think that's
easier
called,
to do.
I think it's
But-
called plastic pollution though nowadays.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they sort of degrade almost in place because they get brittle, you don't, it's not.
And you have
Like
microplastic.
it was, yeah, they have, well, microplastics, that's true too. So the biggest from a wetlands impact standpoint, obviously, we've got the crossings which have enlarged in size. But this number 5 impact, and we're gonna be talking a lot about that. It's an improvement because where the emergency access came off of the corner of the roadway here, came off of Frederick Street, it crossed the wetland at a much lower location in the overall wetland corridor. This crossing and impact is at the very upper tip. We're not taking a wetland and dividing it in the middle so that we have two separate pieces of wetland. The crossing is moved up gradient to the upper tip of the wetland, and now impacts and does not bisect the wetland into smaller, less environmentally functioning and viable wetland areas. So that's an improvement over the previous application. With the purchase of the property fronting on 22, we're now able to make those changes, which are significant. We'll be talking about those in the future. By all means, I would look at the wetland function and values assessment report. I've looked at all three areas where the impacts are proposed to occur, the direct impacts for the roadway crossing. All of that information is current, it's up to date, it won't change between now and the next time I stand before you. So that report itself is definitely worth reading, generating any questions that you have, and we can talk about those at the next session. And you will get, as quickly as I can turn around the information, that additional wetland mitigation creation element for the remaining portions of wetland impact that we are proposing it as a requirement from the state and federal agencies.
Can you just make sure in your reports to refer to them based on, if you're using these numbers 1 through 5, just so they match? So in the original report, I don't think this area was called number 5, wetland impact area
Yes,
number
I
5.
descriptively described the impact
Right.
area, but the impact number, I'll make
Yes,
sure
just
that
going forward, just so
Not a
that
problem.
it's easier to match up, because there
Sure.
are so many areas.
we can do that.
Okay.
Can
that's
I-
Those
great.
can I ask-
numbers on the plans match the narrative that we submitted.
Okay.
That's why I used those.
Okay.
I didn't coordinate with Dave.
Okay.
And just for my education, when it says age restricted, that means it's a 55-plus community?
Part of it.
Yes.
Part of it or all of it?
Up to 80%.
100%.
Up
Except for
to, or it has to be 80%?
Well, sorry, a minimum
Of 80%.
of
Have up
80.
to 20%.
You could have
not-
up to 20% not 50.
Yeah, except for the
Not
front
age
section, it's
restricted.
90, right?
Sorry?
Is the front section 90?
Yes, that's right. That's
The
right.
little overlay is 90.
Right, the 14 acres that
90%.
has direct access to Notch Hill is 90%.
And who keeps control of that?
The association. That's planning and zoning matter.
Yeah.
but-
I was just curious how
Yeah.
that worked. Okay.
Yeah.
Could you possibly point something out for me on the map here? Is this coming out here to Notch Hill Road, is this the old trolley line?
It is a slow trolley right of way, those darker lines that.
Right,
Yeah.
and then that will eventually cut into this road and,
And then this road, this new road,
Yeah.
follows right on it, right
Okay.
where it is today.
now what about the other side of the trolley trail?
So we had, and Carrie will know where this stands, I don't know where this stands, but we did have some preliminary discussions about, with the land trust, and
Mhm.
about, continuing the trail system through here, through this site, maybe modifying, adding signage, and allowing it, I think, in conjunction with the Guilford Trust.
Right, because
allowing it to go, to
yeah.
continue through.
Because eventually there may be a greenway going as far as Madison, and this is part of it, and it's something I would just suggest that you take into consideration.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to Carrie, and that was quite some time ago we had those
Yeah.
discussions.
Okay, thanks.
So, if no one else has any more concerns, since we're gonna go all
Yeah,
the
we
way
have
through this
to-
next
we're
week,
not-
I guess what we have to do is just make a motion to table it, right? 'Cause
To continue.
to continue,
Yep.
right? So if someone would like to make a motion to continue, IW application 2019-3, and then,
I'll move to continue in application, IWA application 2019-3.
and do we have a second?
Second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. All right, that will be tabled to the next meeting.
So then, just to go over, and I'll make a copy of this for you, Mike, as well. So the application was received July 24th, so the commission has up to 65 days to schedule a public hearing, which brings us to September 27th. So that's within the meeting date timeline. So once we have everything, then, you know, the commission can make a decision about scheduling the public hearing, which you would be able to do within that 65 days. If they request an extension, if it's needed, then, you know, we could look at that.
We can also do a site walk, we can start that
Right.
discussion.
And then, once the public hearing is scheduled, then the commission only has 35 days to close the public hearing. And that's where I would expect at least one extension to be needed.
Oh, absolutely. It'd be the best
Because
for
you
all
would
parties,
have
because there's so
two
much information.
site walks, I would imagine, at least one meeting, two
Right.
meetings. Okay, so we can just talk about the timeline.
Is it, Carrie and I were speaking about this earlier, is it the commission's preference to have a sidewalk after the next meeting, or between now and?
We really can't do a site walk till we get all the information. So, yeah, I mean, I know it would be advantageous to you, but if we can't, you know what I mean? We have to wait the next meeting to get everything and look at it, because there could be additional information and everything, and it just, we just want all the information before, because then we can start, you know, fresh at that time. And
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, in the next meeting, if we're able to submit everything that, you know, Carrie and Kurt asked for, and we're able to be able to review that, at least before that, there's probably, in theory, no reason why we couldn't determine whether there's a significant activity or not, which we probably know it's going to be. And we can also, you know, talk about some site walks, so we can start scheduling things a little more quicker. But right now, without all that information, I just, you know, someone else has another feeling. I just think it's best to wait and get all that, and then start from there.
Okay, I just wanted to ask because I want to make sure we get the road staked out, or if so, we got a little time.
You got time. That's the good news. is You got plenty of time to stake out and get everything squared away for that time. So.
Just have to do it before the snow falls, right?
Yeah, you're right. That's right. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So we're going to move on to item C. Before we do, I just want to make it noted that Ashley Joyner, regular member, is now seated. So we're going to move on to item C, IWWA application 2019-15, site plan for removal of 4 existing culverts to replace with 3 box culvert sections located in the Farm River at 739 and 745 Forest Road.
I can hold any information, like those larger plans. If you want to pass anything down, just let me know. You can just pile it up.
Okay.
Okay.
That plan.
So this application, I think, was described to you just in concept at the last meeting. So we did have a site visit. Kurt and I went out to the Solg property along with representatives from the RWA to talk about what they wanted to do and their engineer. So I believe you have plans in your packet as well,
Yep. So,
right?
No.
Nope.
yeah.
Just the application.
739 Forest Road. Oh,
That's
right,
the
application. Right.
application.
That's right. I have that.
But I remember the discussion very well.
Yes, I remember that.
Didn't we
But-
have pictures in the last one?
The what?
We had pictures in the last one.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah,
we
there's
did.
pictures and everything, like.
I got the picture.
I thought
Yeah, I thought we had 2. I thought we were, yeah, but I'm trying to remember, like, we were all okay with what had to be done.
I know,
Anyway.
at the last meeting, you guys were all like, yep, this sounds good. And we
All
were
right.
like, no, we don't even have an application yet, and we.
Well, the good news is we, you know.
Tonight we can
That's
deny
right,
it.
yeah.
I don't know what's going on at all.
Well, I'll put that between you and then.
So, this is the plan. So again, there's 5 existing culverts, correct?
Right.
So correct, step in here, and I'll just do a quick overview.
Just identify yourself for the record, Mr. Sullivan. I know we know who you are, but we're here.
Bill Saul, 739 Forest Road, and other piece.
Gotcha. That's fine, thanks.
So there's maybe I
Let me get this right
You want
here.
to sit?
No.
Let's do this. This is existing. So there are 5 existing culverts.
Yep.
So Forest Road's up here, the house is here, this is a gravel driveway, you know, obviously over into like a field area.
Right.
So typically this flows over, right, when the Farm River is really high, gets blocked by debris, et cetera. So what's been designed on that other sheet is to actually replace 4 of the culverts with 3 box culverts. So the box culverts obviously will be open this way, placed here, and then the 5th culvert will remain where it is. The one change to the plans is that these wing walls won't be there, they're just going to have riprap and slope it down. And then the RWA had wanted a plan showing where the diversion, where the water would be diverted during construction.
Not be a block right across was, I think, what they agreed on.
Right.
And why are they leaving one culvert?
Help
Well,
with the diversion, I
I
think.
would
put the
think so.
diversion through, plus I think these are gonna settle, there'll be no water going through them when it
Right, that's what we
dry
talked about
time.
the last time.
This
Right.
goes down the
Oh,
fish
that's
and
right.
everything
I remember
else.
that.
Right,
Yep,
that's-
now I remember that you
Ah,
said that.
gotcha.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
good.
I
So
remember.
This
I
is
got-
always running, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
this
could dry out.
those are
Gotcha.
set hard,
Yep,
they're
gotcha.
down low.
But there's always a flow for the fish, yeah, that's.
That's right, I remember
Yes.
that now that he said that, yes.
And Kurt wanted to look at the updated plans from Centec. So I don't have final comments from him, but the general feeling from both he and RWA were that, you know, if you were building this from scratch, you would do it a little bit differently, but this is going to be a vast improvement from what's there. You know, so there's no issue.
Yeah, does this whole thing fall on you alone? I mean.
Me, myself, and I get to lean the junkyard property, but I think
Yeah.
that's not a good idea, but, yeah, because really, the only access to my 4 acres my business is on down there in the junkyard. So everybody else goes the other way.
But you have to pay for the construction of this by yourself?
Mhm. I'm stumbling along, that's what took so long doing this, to get,
No, I know,
I begged her, we don't need engineering on the plan.
But it looks good after all you.
Yeah, I paid for the engineering, and then, I mean, I got the culverts there. Okay, and it's gonna be a
After
bunch
the
of
meeting-
farm boys
after-
with an
after the
excavator,
meeting,
I
they have
gotta
to
hire
tell
a
us something.
$2,000 an hour training somehow, because the culvert's way a little bit.
The big concrete precast.
Oh, yeah.
They're huge, if I
We
remember.
thought they weighed about 24 to 26, but I couldn't figure out how when we had them on the back of the triaxle. The triaxle was begging so
Yeah.
hard. And then the engineer figured it out, they weigh like 36, 38.
Because you were at the site, then I remember you showed us pictures, right? You had them,
Yeah,
right?
the pictures are there.
Right, but that's
I mean,
why, that's why I'm picturing this. You have them, we just we have to go
Yeah,
through the plan
they're-
to put them in.
well,
Okay, 'cause they're
If
good.
this is the bridge, they're sitting right over here.
I mean, they're gonna allow for wildlife. I mean, that's what we just heard in the
No,
last
that-
application.
I
That's the
love
way to
that
go.
brook.
No, that's the way to go. It's gonna be an improvement.
I mean, what happens now when it comes down, brush and everything, it jams up.
Becomes a dam.
And I gotta stand there with a log truck, tag them out.
No.
If I leave it low now and it washes out. If I fill it high, it don't wash out as much, but when it does, everybody catches a whooping. I mean, now, when it comes up to the pipes can't handle it, or plugs, Gary Pedersen's driveway is under this much water, and it backs. When you leave it low, and it works for now, but it's gonna
Okay.
be a pain in the butt. I think
This will resolve it.
those, well, what's the flow difference, 350 to 1450 or something? Cubic feet?
Yeah.
From what's there now to what'll be there. It'll probably handle 200-year floods.
Yeah.
I, myself,
Because we're gonna
because
have a lot
I
of-
lived through the 350 one, the big one.
Down the road, there should be help for
You
projects.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
I-
Water companies.
everybody
Their
gains.
water.
Really,
You know,
this affects
I
everyone.
think.
it does.
It's way better than what's there.
Well, I don't have any issues.
Yeah.
I think we didn't have any issues
RWA.
last time either.
The water company's on board.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
I think the water company needs to help pay for it, and the neighbors hope to help pay for
My
it.
girlfriend says, how come the town doesn't? I said, it's not East Haven.
Well, it's also not a street that we plow, it's a private driveway,
Yeah.
but your neighbors should be helping out, and so should the RWA.
The least we can do is rename a section of the Farm River the Salls Brook.
Official South
Well, that
Crossing.
sounds like Austria, right?
Yeah, well,
So what do we do?
So I need to just get the final plans from Centec.
Well, I guess
And then
Kurt and
I
them
have
are
to,
talking.
because
They
this is
put
the
me
first
on
time
the picture.
that the application has been on the agenda, so we have the 14 days, so it's just,
so the next meeting, assuming everything we
We
get,
should
we get
have.
that, we can,
Yes.
we can approve it and.
Yeah.
We're hoping to try to be able to, a lot of it's weather related.
Oh, absolutely, but the next meeting is in September.
When do you hope to do it?
I'm hoping for a really dry October. They do happen. Do I expect it? No. Plus the fact that I have a pocket full of money. Okay, we're, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
How about a GoFundMe page?
So then again, this is nothing, we just really gotta table because we gotta.
yeah, continue it to.
Continue it.
the
Okay.
25th.
Yeah, you're all set.
We're all set, yep, we're gonna
Yeah.
table until we get that information.
Yep.
You guys keep telling me.
Yes, so
Yeah, you're
we're
fine.
gonna continue it to the 25th of September.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to Centec, if that's okay with you. See
guys
where the
talk to
plans
them.
are, and then we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and then you should be good to go.
Should be good.
Yes,
Great,
Thank you, Mr. Sully.
thank you.
Okay, so what we can do now is move on to 5 other business. Item A, update on Farm River Watershed Project.
So this, I had emailed all of you, just the update that a grant had been received, so that's just, it's in process.
Cool.
That's all the update. I'll keep this on the agenda, just
Just so we can
to
keep
let you
talking.
know what's happening
Okay.
as things progress.
Very good. So I guess we can move on to item 6, which is Wetland Enforcement Officer's Report. And I guess there's a couple of, 3 applications under item A that were approved by the duly authorized agent, and Carrie just wants to discuss them, just let us know what's going on.
Right, and before that was the amended agenda item.
Oh, yes, I forgot, I wrote that in there, I saw that's, I could read my own scribble, so let's do that. Yep, which the amended agenda, we agreed to bring in application 2019-17.
So, I'll put these, oh, you have plans as well. So, as I mentioned just when the agenda was amended, I'll just do a quick introduction,
Sure.
and then I'll let the applicant describe it. So, you're all familiar with 418 Forest Road, which is the farm brewery that was approved by planning and zoning. They never came before wetlands because on the plans there was no intention of impacting any review area. So there's the 100-foot upland review area from a stream that is to the north of the site, and then also a wetland line.
For the Farm River.
Well, the Farm River, and then there's also a wetland line. So there's a 100-foot upland review area to the west of the building, and then the 200-foot Farm River review area. So as you all know, typically you file with wetlands first, and then planning and zoning, or concurrently. But again, because they weren't expecting any impact, they didn't file anything. So as the project was under construction, they are trying to plan for success, which makes sense because you want to only have to do construction once and not be under construction when you're open. So they have this addition that was added and approved by planning and zoning. But what happened with that is that it triggered building code issues, which includes sprinklers. So with sprinklers, then you need a proposed fire suppression tank, which is here, and a connection for the fire department. So with that connection, the fire department then said, well, we want access using the existing farm road from Auger Road over here.
So now they're gonna pave it?
Well, that's what the fire department would like, yes. So they would like to open the existing guardrail it also has on here to have, so the impact to the 200-foot and 100-foot review area is paving of the road.
Well, can we specify the type of paving? Because we do know there's paving where the water can percolate through, like they're using another, like they're using it, the Zudo property. I mean, I think that would be pertinent here, since this is wetlands, that we use paving methods.
Away a large chunk of a farm.
Right,
that
but
they-
we use paving methods that keeps water in the
And-
wetlands.
The whole reason for having
And what
this.
is this for, this paved access
It's
road to
emergency
bring
access.
emergency water to bring?
No,
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 no utilities,
fire.
no, in case there's a fire.
No, I meant
But
to
it
bring
also
water
says-
for a fire.
Oh.
But this also sounds like it's gonna be heavy equipment on it too, because it
This
says
wasn't in
employee,
the original one either.
and
But
so
that's
trucks
not-
are gonna come
that's
on
not in
here
the
too,
review
right?
area.
I know, but it wasn't part of the original.
But this is.
But I think they
But
could
this
use
says,
that.
this says emergency employee and loading access road, which means you're gonna have heavy vehicles going over
Well,
this, right?
so I'll let the applicant go into the details. I just wanted to provide the overview and the kind of basis around it.
This is going around us, like I said in the first place.
So I'll let them, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Sylvia Rakowska. I'm counsel for Stewards of Land Brewery, and obviously bringing this before you today. As Carrie mentioned, this access wasn't something that we triggered, we initiated in any way. The access that we had for loading and so forth was approved by zoning down this part here. After the fact, the fire marshal's office came to us and said that, long story short, that they didn't want to stop a truck on Forest Road, and that they wanted access here. So they wanted access on Auger Road through the existing farm road. So if you're familiar at all with the farm, there is currently right now, and has been for a very long time, a dirt road that goes down around this way and through the property. It's an existing road that has had all sorts of very long, large vehicles going on it for quite some time. So it's not just the gators, it's box trucks, it's all sorts of tractors, trailers, all sorts of vehicles that have been using this road for decades. So fire came to us and said they believe that this is an appropriate fire access. They wanted to be able to hook up, as Carrie said, to a sprinkler system. I'm not going to have the right terminology exactly, but there's essentially a hookup here that they wanted to be able to get right to. So that's how we got to this situation. Obviously not intended, otherwise this would have been done in a reverse form. But here we are. So in going through that process, we had a meeting with town staff, with the engineer, with the fire marshal, fire chief, everyone that is relevant to this. In the course of that process, they are essentially saying that we need to do what I've listed on the narrative, 4 different things to make that a viable access.
Here, I'm
for
gonna
fire.
pass this out. Yeah, I just got this, so that's done.
You want to hang out a second while you?
Yeah.
Sure.
5, right?
So while Carrie does that, we just go through some preliminaries. So obviously, I've done a little bit of highlighting, because the only area that's before you is the highlighted area all the way to the left of the plan. Obviously, the flagged area is way up on top. Even with the revisions, where the driveway access is, for the widened driveway access is more than 50 feet away from the wetlands. And obviously, there's a small portion that's in your wetlands or your upland review area, and then a little bit larger portion of the farm area.
So is there,
So you have,
is there gonna have to, bill be brought in?
yeah, well, let me make sure everybody's got their report, so I can I'll go into it. Carrie, does everyone have the-
Yes. Yes.
So at the request of the town engineer, to use his words, he wanted us to flatten this access. This access right now is a little bit of a drop, and it's a little bit too much of a grade that they wanted in that area. So the only fill that's being brought in is to flatten here, and I believe I've given you in the narrative that it's 43 cubic yards. The fill is only in the review area. It doesn't get in anywhere near into wetlands, and it's not in the river area. It's just essentially right in here. So again, to flatten the ramp in. But again, everything I'm asking you for today is something that a town or staff member has asked to be, or to
I'm concerned about the application of that road. I mean, you're not intending to park food trucks on that road, are you?
No, no. So let me get to that. Let me, bear with me for one second. So it's important for you to understand how this came about. In the course of going through this process, again, we had a large meeting with a lot of individuals. It came up to essentially use this access as the alternative to the loading only this access here on Forest Road. This access here on Forest Road was solely going to be a very inefficient loading access. In fact, there was going to be bollards and chains there on a full-time basis. So let me give you a little bit of backstory on that, because this is not your typical site with regard to loading or anything like that. Most of the site is any solid waste that's, so essentially there's a solid waste that's formed that's going to be put into totes. Those totes are essentially going to be put on a gator and by one of the farm vehicles and taken and distributed to other farms for a variety of agricultural needs. So as a start, there's very little waste that occurs on the property. The only reason that there's ever going to be any larger than a gator kind of access down this way will be to pick up the dumpster, which again, we maybe once a month or whatever we have to pick up the dumpster, if that. The propane tank will be filled, and the propane tank essentially runs the brew house. And there's a small fireplace in the tasting room, but again, very infrequently utilized. And then what we did in response partly to, we have excess parking on this plan than is necessary pursuant to the regulations. Again, as Carrie mentioned, we're hoping for growth. I guess that's the plan for everyone that goes through all this process. And obviously, we're trying to be respectful of where that parking goes and not interfering into wetlands and so on and so forth. So what we propose is some additional parking over here. Again, as Carrie mentioned, totally outside of any review area, very far outside the wetlands review or the upland review area, but there would be limited employee-only parking there, and we'll obviously have appropriate signage to dictate who can go down this access.
Is that going to be gated? You said this. You said originally you were going to put
Yes.
some type of gates. Is there going to be gated?
Originally, we had bollards and a chain here
Mhm.
with a sign that essentially says whatever it needs to say to keep people out.
But
I think fires, because of what the access is for, I don't think fire is going to allow us to have gating there.
Well, where I live, I can tell you that fire has an emergency entrance, and they have gates and the chain on it. So it's they have it's a grass road that the fire approved. It's the secondary access. There is underneath or in between the grass, there is a foundation that's so the trucks do not sink if it's wet, and there's a gate. So there can be gating, and there can be other ways of doing this, like they do where I live, where it's grass for emergency entrance.
So meaning the actual surface.
Mm-hmm.
So we are determining what the appropriate surface is going to be, and obviously we'd like it to be the most permeable surface possible, since this is obviously right next to the farm area. So it's in the applicant's interest for it to be as permeable as possible as well. So I think the interests are consistent. Just with regard to the gating, how I phrase this application is part of it is regulated activity, but part of it is pre-existing activity. So actually, this existing farm road is used by the family to actually use.
But that's when it was a farm.
Right, and
Now
that's
it's
when
not
it
a
was a
farm.
farm.
It is,
It's still
this
farm.
portion is a farm, it is absolutely a farm.
Yeah, but that
and-
uses of that
That's
property
going to
isn't
a
for a
business
farm.
now.
Well, if I may, everything you see other than the building and the parking is still very much farm, and your regulations call this a farm use. Your actual zoning regulations.
But
say
the
this is
new
a farm
parking
use.
area that you've created has only been in existence since the fire department wanted this access route.
Well, first, this isn't in existence at all. This is a proposal.
Thank you.
And.
But it's been only since the fire department has asked for this access route.
Yes, because, and specifically because, every single individual every single staff member that was in the room when we had this discussion preferred this access to eliminate this access. So again,
Of
I
course, but this
appreciate-
access doesn't cross any of the wetlands regulated area, so that's why.
in either way, every official wanted to get rid of this access and thought that this access was a better alternative. to go right back to the beginning, I mean, obviously, we're here to determine whether there's any impact on the wetlands. As Carrie mentioned at the beginning of the process, this is something that she has the ability to prove because of the basically inexistent impact on the wetlands. Again, whatever road is going there is an existing road. Whatever widening or manipulation of the road that's happening is all due to fire and safety.
Well, see, I would argue that it isn't, that it's a different application.
It is.
Because it's
It
totally
is
different.
not
It needs to
under
become in
Carrie's
front of this commission because of the fact that it's now going to a business. There is other intended use than bringing farm equipment down to harvest crops. You're now using it to collect garbage, bring in propane as an employee entrance, totally different. So I think this needs to be come to this commission for approval. It can't be done by, in my opinion, it cannot be done by Carrie. It must come here.
Mine too.
Well, again, this is an existing farm road.
But it's not used as an existing farm road. If it was an existing farm road, it would not be going to that building. And I'm sorry, it's a business.
It does go to this building.
It's a building, it's a business.
The current farm.
No, I lived on Totucket Road. I've gone by that a lot of years down Auger Road. That went around and it took care of the field. It did not take care of that house. Never went to the house that was there.
Never.
This is a totally new
It's going
application.
to the new addition that was approved by planning and zoning. It's not going to the existing building that was there.
Again, you're looking at what the impact on the wetlands is.
Right, and I still am. I'm still very much, as everybody in the
What your
spell
concern
room
is-
knows, I
what your
am very
concern
adamant
is-
about protecting the wetlands.
What your
I think that
concern
affects
is,
the wetlands.
The activity that you're concerned with is outside the review area, very clearly outside of the review area.
But the road isn't.
The use of the road
And
is
the-
something that's
Oh, no,
pre-existing.
And the intended use of the road isn't.
Just to look at this, because I don't think we're making much headway. What are the specific concerns regarding the road? You mentioned
I'm
having
heavy equipment,
pervious- But I'm just, ideally, what would a final
I would like to see
road look like? Is it
similar type.
grass? Is it
Similar,
permeable
I
pavement?
would think similar to what they're doing at the restaurant
At Mill Pond?
at Mill Pond.
So porous pavement?
Porous pavement that will allow it to go through.
They have on Route 80 where Sea Hill Road comes out, closest to the library, they put in a number of years ago for the utility, to service the utility poles there, they put in these pavers.
There's pavers too.
They put in these pavers that the grass grew through,
Right.
and once the grass was established, you didn't even know they were there. But the whole purpose was to be able to drive in there with heavy equipment, park it there, and do the servicing that they needed to do with the utility poles. And I thought that.
But the problem with that for this is it's in the winter time and when it's wet, he's gonna have a hard time bringing vehicles in and out. So it's gonna have to be some type of a pavement.
No, the access, the employee parking, would there be any other access to that if you didn't use the access on Auger Road?
No.
No. So this little dead-end thing here where it shows 13 feet, that was not planned to go up to,
Make sure I know where
yeah.
you're
Right here, why
Yeah.
can't this be the entrance for the employees?
Well, for a variety of reasons.
Two
So
cuts too
this
close.
is just a turnaround,
Yeah,
so that someone can turn around.
yeah.
Again, this would be an additional curb cut because you're dealing on Forest Road, which is a state highway, and DOT wouldn't approve an additional
Right,
curb
no,
cut.
that's too close.
DOT they don't have any choice but to be okay with this is the existing house driveway. So
Right.
that is something that we're allowed to use. But DOT is very much looking for us to eliminate that access entirely and utilize this. But again, so is every other town
And-
official.
And there's no way, I mean, this is the entrance here, is it not, to the parking lot?
Yes.
So is there no way to get from this parking lot over to the employee parking?
Well,
I mean,
No,
let's.
the
do-
parking lot is really
Grade.
raised now.
It's raised now.
It's
Very
raised, it's, okay.
Compared to the drop-off behind.
All right. I'm just looking for an alternative.
so.
Yeah, they've been bringing Phil in over there.
So just to be clear, this parking isn't something that's necessary at this moment in time. We're trying to address multiple concerns at the same time. Carrie specifically mentioned that she would like to see as much parking as possible, so we're trying to accommodate that. And put some parking here, and again, restrict it as much as possible to just employee access.
You called it a tasting room. So what is the volume of traffic that you expect to be coming here? I mean, I was kind of expecting a big bar.
It's not.
Okay.
It's probably in a perfect situation, it would be much bigger, but it's not. It's still the existing house, so the addition that was built is the brew house portion. So this whole section that you see back here is not a seating area. It's you can essentially look under it. What would you call
Looks
that?
like a garage.
Like a loft.
It's like a loft, yeah, thank you. It's like a loft, so it's fully enclosed in, it's a glass all the way up to the top. And you can just, people like to see the brewing stuff, so that's what they did there. So the existing house is the square footage that you have for patron area, and actually less than that because of the electrical and all that. So it's actually a pretty small facility.
It's for refilling mostly, right?
Yes.
Refilling canisters?
So there's,
Can you clarify what you mean by refilling?
Like they bring their reusable canister and it's refilled, and
No,
then they
it's
bring it
a
offsite?
full, it's a full tasting room. So you can, underneath the farm brewery permit in Connecticut, in the legislation, you can go have a tasting, you could refill, you could purchase products, and you can also sit down and have a pint.
Okay.
And that's what it is. It's to showcase the farm products.
Right.
That the Department of Ag states is a farm
Right.
product.
But
in
when you originally
manufactured
came
there.
before us, you said you were planning on doing the refilling mostly. Like you
It's-
were expecting a lot of traffic in and out because people would come refill and then take it off-site.
Growlers.
It's mainly 95 to 100% on-site being produced there.
Mhm.
And that's the main project, the main idea of this project is to be on-site, or you could take a wet, not distro.
No, I wasn't talking about distribution.
Yeah.
I thought it was like these refillable
Growlers.
canisters.
Growlers.
Yeah.
Growlers.
Or
Yeah.
there might be pre-filled where we
Yeah.
have 4-packs or bottles to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more or less, yeah.
Does she know what a growler is?
it's a glass bottle.
You know, I think
Yeah.
if you do that with some type of impervious paving, to make sure the water permeates, and then also to make sure that there's no contamination that goes off of that if something happens.
What's
So let
the
me
plan
say-
in between the road and the wetland?
In between the, I'm sorry, where?
Like, to the
Down there?
west of the road, in the wetland review area? What will that be?
That right now is farmland and will remain farmland.
But are you gonna do anything there in terms of grading or?
So, the existing, well, the road right, this entrance here is where the current road is, so there's very little grading that needs to be done. And obviously, they're trying to look to not wash out all their crops, so for mutual interest here, I think, at the SEC. So, again, the only grading that we're doing is limiting it just to what the town engineer is requiring for the grade it down. But then beyond that, it's the same that it has always been. So there's, the seating here and anything else in here that is necessary for just regular maintenance. Did that answer your question, Carrie?
Mhm. In your conversations with the fire chief, did he mention anything about like porous pavement, blocks? Did he only say pavement? Did he say no gravel, no dirt road?
So the only reason we're even talking about any kind of impervious surface is because of the fire requirements. Because we much prefer putting something less than that in as well. We did talk about essentially those pavers, that was not their preference, and, also gets very costly, so then you have a feasibility issue.
Well, I would think too is that, because we're essentially doing this for the fire trucks, which have a certain weight to them, so obviously whatever's put in there has to support that, even in dry, there's certain things that will work and won't. Plus, I would imagine it's gotta be able to be plowed, because what's the sense of putting a fire road if there's a fire in the middle of winter, and they can't get in there, so if it's a gravel, or whatever you choose, there's a lot of
But
gravel.
I understood the Mill Tavern, the whole parking lot was good, at least that's what I
Right.
recall.
Lower
The
part.
lower
Lower
part.
part.
The lower part.
just
Yeah.
the
About
lower.
what about the upper part?
That's
'Cause they-
traditional pavement.
Because they have a detention system they're gonna take, if you remember.
'Cause they
Yeah,
have a
there was another
draining filter
system they were
system.
gonna put
Right.
in there,
They have a
right,
draining
okay.
filter
So
system.
my question would be like, because I agree with Frank, that would be the ideal solution, would the fire trucks, would there be a weight limit on it? I
So-
wonder what the size and weight of vehicles that could
But
cross
hopefully they
that.
never have to use it.
Right.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
But,
But they're still gonna have the propane tank that comes in, and the trash truck that removes the
I mean, the
dumpster.
individual vehicles won't be an issue probably, because they wouldn't be using it at Hill Pond Tavern if it, but.
Right, and again, the individual vehicles are probably gonna be smaller than vehicles that are.
Oh, yeah.
Right, right, that's what I mean, that's.
So it's, I don't mean to make light of it, but it's the fact that we're here for fire, it's a little, I don't.
I'm not concerned about the individual, I mean, that's a discussion for, but it's just that the quality of the road, how intense does it need, we're trying to
Right.
keep it, we're trying to make it impervious.
Well, I can't say, and Alex,
So-
correct me if I'm misstating anything here, but,
Gonna stop
I think
anyway.
the applicant is
Right.
more than happy to do the
Once.
most impervious surface that
Right.
fire will.
I understand, and they have some requirements, that's why, which I'm not aware of, of the weight of the fire trucks and things, there's things that dictate what surfaces that can be used, that's all I'm asking, I mean. it's-
So, also just another comment. So I noticed on your plan, outside of the review area, but still pertinent to wetlands and water quality, are rain gardens. So instead of having a rain garden next to a building, what if you even have something, like some other kind of plantings? I know that there'll be crops, but if the commission's concerned about runoff from the road or whatever's running off, to have some kind of planting?
You're talking about up here.
Yes.
So you're talking about the new Fire Pros Road going towards the river, going west towards the river?
Yes, yes.
So right now, the health control runoff that's coming from east to the proposed river.
Yeah.
We do have lavender beds that are waiting to plant,
Mhm.
but we didn't want to put those in until we knew we were going to do this or something else. Because the turnaround where that is impacts that. and
So that's in
make those
between
sense.
Forest Road and this
The
proposed road?
Correct.
Okay.
We're trying to keep from the proposed to the Farm River as natural as possible,
Uh-huh.
as it's always been like that, and it has had no issue with us cultivating along up to the Farm River, as we've done for over 2 decades on that site there, keeping it natural like that. So we're trying to keep that as natural as possible, as pre-existing with that. By changing that, then you have to worry about impacting the bridge that would be down there and any of the other topography that already exists there next to the river. And as Sylvia mentioned, we're trying to do as very little work to impact the wetlands or the reserve. And we're only here because fire has asked us to use that access point. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be here.
Well, I think we need to find out if we can use impervious. That's, to me, is the key, at least through the 200 foot, is can we use the impervious pavement?
Or what combination would they accept? There may be 2 or 3 different, right?
I mean, they don't need it for the parking lot or things like that, but at least through the wetland.
Right.
That should be all impervious.
Right, I absolutely agree.
If the fire department had not asked for this emergency access, for instance, how were you going to access the propane? Was that originally in a different area?
So there's been a couple of evolutions throughout this process. Had this not occurred, originally the driveway was here, and then that driveway curved essentially around, outside of the review area, outside of the river buffer. And only with what fire is asking us to do, did we say, well, it just makes a lot more sense to have it here, and again, because of the benefits of removing this old pre-existing driveway, it just made a lot of sense all across the board.
And this is only because of the additional addition, right? It's because you added an addition as to why this came up.
We have the fire
Sprinklers.
connection right
Fire,
there.
yes.
The sprinklers and
Yeah.
stuff, yeah.
So, to answer your question, propane, if we use the pre-existing driveway of 14, the house, the original driveway, propane propane can easily park there and walk down to that tank, no issue. Dumpster, we can easily do up there, but again, DOT had concerns of trucks doing turnarounds, even though there was room to do turnarounds there, concerns just because of that corner of 22 and Auger.
Sure.
As highlighted, that the police chief, fire, all express.
Also,
So-
there's the existing well is here, so a dumpster in the closer area would be a problem with the existing well.
So that allows us to move it down
Yeah,
there.
I was just kind of looking for the least impact possible, and I'm, just wondering whether the fire department's request to have that access is really all that reasonable, where in case of a fire, so what if you block Auger Road or you block Forest Road for the one time? I mean, hopefully there's never gonna be a fire. And I mean, we all get inconvenienced.
They want to get the equipment as close as they can, so.
But what's closer than the road?
They
Well,
want to
they need to
utilize-
get this thing in the back here.
They want to utilize the current sprinkler system that's installed right now.
Yeah,
They want to be able to hook up to the double hookup that's down right there. That's per request of the fire marshals, because it's right there, so they can just drive the truck right up, make the hookup, and they can pump water through that system, and that way you don't want to have to send any of our men from the town in there to combat, and forbid, a fire.
So you have a water storage tank for the sprinkler system, that's what they're hooking up to, right?
No, they're hooking up to the
It's a Siamese connection.
Siamese connection. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, but you're on well, right?
Well, they'll bring a tanker truck.
they bring.
Oh, you're talking about the
Yeah,
tank
yeah, the
truck?
tanker truck.
Oh,
Yeah.
But don't you also
You
have
have-
a storage tank?
You have a limited amount of
You
storage.
have to have a storage tank.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so right now, we don't have that. We have
At
the
this
full
moment in
system.
time.
Yes.
But it's proposed on the plan.
So you'll have on-site storage of water for the
That's-
sprinkler system.
So on the proposed, we have that, but as Bill expressed, that's a limited amount, so once that runs out.
Right.
So any sprinkler system is designed to go off to allow the fire department to get there to combat it. That's double Siamese connections allow them to keep that flowing, heaven
Right.
forbid they have to keep going, or if they have defensive to protect other buildings or what it might
It
not
makes
be.
sense.
That allows us
And-
to do that. So that's the main thing, to have that connection. You see in a lot of new structures, they have that. So we're trying to work with our fire department on their request to do so.
The other thing, just by way of alternatives that we discussed, was potentially moving the access, so to, again, have as little as possible in the review area. The flip side to that is you're getting closer to the intersection.
Yeah.
That's a
And
dangerous
it's a bigger
intersection.
slope
Right.
down.
Right, so
Well-
they're widening it, obviously, to get the swing in, but they don't want it any.
If I might suggest, in order to reduce costs a bit, you could do a combination of
Yeah.
pavement on the upper section and a complete
Pervious.
pervious surface at the lower part, at least to the turn.
Right, he's talking about as you enter in
As you enter in.
to the
That's
first.
pervious.
Yeah.
So that'd be pervious, so the water go through, and then when you get to that, what's it, the 100-foot marker? Then you go paved. That'll help with the cost. So you'd have pavement there.
Typically speaking, the aprons need to be impervious for this, typically speaking.
Well,
apron.
the apron is just a few feet
Feet.
from the road, and then you can go to pervious till you get around that corner, and then you can go to pavement again. It's just,
I personally, we've said it, I don't think it's even your decision, I think the fire department's gonna say.
Okay, we're-
It's
we're
your
the
point, it's gonna be, you have to
Well,
have a certain
I-
amount of PSI,
Yeah.
No,
half a
but
square
actually
inch per thing, and if
Fire
in-
department
if-
doesn't have a say over
yeah, of course they do. Well,
that. They're suggesting
Yeah.
this, but we
But
can
I'm
say
saying-
no, and that's the thing.
right.
I just
But
have
I'm
a
just
quick
saying,
question.
so we can throw all we want.
the road is.
We can throw the
road
suggestion,
is
but it's
there.
gotta be reviewed by the fire
Improved,
department.
I guess, if
Are
the
you,
It doesn't meet the weight needs, they're gonna.
If this is accepted, are you planning on taking that top one out now?
Top left.
That little
The top
original driveway
The
entrance?
very original driveway to Forest. Yes, that's what DOT has requested.
Yes.
Right, so
Says
you're
here-
gonna
They
take that
prefer-
whole thing out and
Yes.
nobody will be able to
Says
access
here
that side
to
of
be
that building?
removed.
Yeah, there'll be grass.
Okay.
Because essentially, and this is looking at the plans again, DOT, all the heads in town agreed at the meeting that we had at this, that by eliminating that original driveway, prevents a similar situation that he might have had at Forest Road and Auger, where he had the farm vehicles coming to deliver the ingredients that were being used to do the farm product that's being brewed there, driving all the way up to 22, stopping, turning, stopping again on 22, to then turn to drop off those farm ingredients. By eliminating that completely, and letting them go into the access point that they've normally gone on to the farm, whether it's picking up the crops or parking there to pick the crops or whatnot, they all heads of the agency deemed it was better to go this way.
All right.
We're just here to.
So I think we need to
again,
find
go back
out,
to Terry's
I mean, I
earlier
think you're
request.
hearing that, at least from a couple of us, that we want pervious pavement. And that probably this should come back as an application in front of the group. At least that's my preference. You come back as a formal application and with the fire department, whatever you need with pervious pavement.
And that's not something we could come to an agreement tonight?
Not if we have to go back to the fire department, right? Or
Right.
not? I mean, if we
Because
can
we can
agree
do-
tonight that this is gonna
Can
be
it be-
pervious pavement, then I'm okay tonight. We can agree with it.
Or we can
Can be
wait to hear from.
conditioned and, with approval from the fire department.
Or could we, I mean,
If it-
could we table it till we get information from the, I mean, there's another way, it's hard to make a decision. Either, is that what you're suggesting, or just?
Well, it
or
sounds like, so
conditionally approve
you'd
it?
like, it sounds like the majority anyway would like pervious,
Mhm.
at least
For
for the 100
At
foot.
least to the 100-foot.
For the 100 foot.
Right.
So then, to require that contingent upon approval from the fire department,
Just a
and if
small
that were to
section.
change, then they would have to come back
Yeah.
and say,
Yeah.
actually, that won't work, we need to file a full application. I don't know.
But
That's
then
what-
you could approve that one.
Right, if the fire
Yeah, if the
department
fire
can just tell us
department
what, if, as long as that's
Okay.
acceptable, the pervious
Okay.
pavement can handle their trucks, that's really,
So,
Just can
My
I just
concern.
clarify? So the issue is whether, if fire would allow impervious, then if this is something that.
Pervious.
Pervious.
I'm sorry, pervious. Pervious, then it's something that you're comfortable with Carrie reviewing. Just so that I'm clear, if fire says no, it needs to be paved, where are we?
Probably.
Because, so I'm just suggesting we're having a conversation
Mhm.
now. And if fire says that's how it needs to be, there's nothing more anyone can
then
do.
probably what I would say is if that's the way it comes, then Carrie would contact us and let us know. I mean, let us know the decision, I mean, it's something, right, you could, and then we'd address it at the next meeting.
So your
Yeah.
job is to convince the fire marshal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I believe we can overrule that myself.
I do too.
Because I don't think the fire department has say on that. We do. We have say on the wetlands.
Well, you have.
Because it's
you
not gonna be
have
the-
impact on wetlands.
We have say on what goes there.
Mhm.
So, at least that's my opinion. So,
I-
so that the fire truck in reality, it's very rarely they're gonna use that, right? And it's just gonna be the one time over it in theory, right? So it should be able to handle a truck going over it one time. So I can't believe that the Milk Tavern, which is, I'm assuming they're gonna have lots and lots of cars and trucks on that lower part, if that can handle it, it should be able to handle the fire trucks we have in this town. So I would say if the fire department says no, then it has to come back as an application and then we have to review it.
I agree.
So if fire department says yes, pervious, then Carrie can do the
Yes.
same.
Yep.
Yep.
Fire department says no, it needs to be.
Then it has to come back.
I get this wrong again.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, we all.
Right.
But we're just,
So, and I just wanna be.
We're not talking a lot of
We're-
space.
we're talking about 40 feet of road.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
well,
that's
well,
it.
and that's
That's
sort
it.
of why I want to go back to that.
Yep.
Right, because
That's
the
fine.
ultimate question before you is, does that cause an impact on the wetlands such that you should not allow it? Or it should be conditioned in such a way? And I think we started this conversation by Carrie saying this is very little, if any, impact on the wetlands at all, which is why she said that she can review it. So I fully, believe me, appreciate the questions and the concerns, and I can't even tell you how much time has gone into trying to figure out a different way. But the ultimate question is this an impact on the wetlands? And I can't fathom how there's a significant impact on the
Well,
wetlands.
right
such
now,
that-
it's dirt.
No, I mean what we're showing.
Correct, but right.
Even assuming fire requires it to be paved, I just can't imagine in any way how that is a significant impact to the wetlands such to require an application.
Well, then where's the runoff gonna go? How are you gonna drain, you haven't explained how you're gonna direct the runoff.
Well, I think Alex did talk about the plantings that they were gonna put in.
That's not runoff from the road.
Right, and what are you gonna do as a drainage system in the employee parking lot?
Well, the runoff from
So-
the road is actually gonna be less than it is right now, because it's a steeper grade right now. So it'll be a leveling off, so that will actually be an improvement with regard to runoff. With regard to the parking area, there's no intention of having that piece
Actually, as
paved.
dirt, it's not running off,
It's dirt.
it's soaking in, so with pavement,
That's
it will run
incorrect
off.
for that driveway there. Because that driveway is never plowed, it's constantly compacted. It's been a farm driveway since Auger has existed. And you can drive semi-trucks on it right now, no issue at all. We got the brewing equipment down there with the semi-trucks, no issue. We take tractors with spray booms on it, tractors with honey wagons on it, tractors with 26 trailers on it. That water is not seeping in that driveway there. It's not, it's runoff. It's soil, it's not seeping in there, in that there. You have a previous example that your fire department, our fire department has a pump station almost right on the Farm River across the street that is entirely paved, where they have trained with their fire trucks for over decades down the street where one of your board members grew up.
So let's stick to this application.
So, no, I understand that, but we have made it clear, we want to work with everyone in the town, work with you guys, the fire department. We're fine with whatever you guys deem that's appropriate surface to put there, we're okay with that.
Well, we've already scaled back, because my original intent would be the whole thing would have been pervious. And we've compromised and said, okay, the first 40 feet. So we've already met you at least more than halfway. So I don't see what the big deal is putting 40 feet of pervious pavement in place, because we've compromised for you.
I'd be happy to do that.
So then let's
It's
do
up
it.
on fire.
So I think the difficulty is the compromise isn't with us.
Well, right, and that's what we said.
So, and it's with an emergency vehicle, so that, Alex isn't a catch-22. The emergency folks are saying you need to do this. We're saying we're trying to stay out of the wetlands. So we're only here because they're asked us to be.
Well,
So there's
we're saying that we think, hearing this whole discussion, that you can do it. We're just saying we just want, for the first 40 feet to be pervious.
And again.
And I don't see why that couldn't happen. So, right, I mean, I think we all agree on that. I don't think there's.
My concern is if fire says no.
But you're convincing us that tractor trailers and all these big heavy equipment trucks have been driving on this for decades. Why can't you convince the fire marshal that it's suitable for his equipment? Or why couldn't we do an improvement on this road like process, which will compact also, and it's
Right.
plowable and everything else? I mean, I have a 700-foot process driveway. I've never paved it.
Right.
And I've got tractor trailers going down on my farm. I've got all kinds of stuff. I personally think that perhaps the fire marshal is asking a little much of you, or at least he hasn't explained to me his reasoning.
Yeah, I had a process driveway too. I plowed it. I didn't have any issue with it.
I think they're
And
going.
I was
a
on a
process-
hill and it was compacted.
Yeah.
They're referencing some engineering standards that say
Are they?
this much of, these exist, this much of asphalt is this much PSI. I mean, I assume they're doing that.
I don't know.
I
We
don't
weren't
know
part
if
of the
they-
conversation.
I just,
It could even be an NFP, I don't know if it's an NFP
I
or.
still think a process road would work just
I
fine for
completely agree
you.
with you, Jared. If we could say right now, 100% processed, no issue at all. But it goes back to what the fire marshal is going to
So,
say.
I just feel that your
Just say
discussion.
the asphalt, 40 foot of the asphalt is gonna be a pervious asphalt and the rest of it's impervious. It's the message to them.
And the fire marshal said no process?
They wanted the entire thing, originally they wanted to do, as Sylvia presented, something that could handle the fire trucks. And that was discussed
My
at the
driveway
meeting,
handles the fire truck.
what they deemed acceptable.
Well, like
Okay,
I
but
said,
did they-
right.
Did they absolutely say no process?
I
I
would talk
believe
to
we
them.
did.
But that's not consistent,
'Cause
as
that
he
would
just
save
said,
a
that is
whole
not
lot of money
consistent
for you
what
too.
they do, because where I live, there's nothing but grass and this plastic material down that the trucks can drive over with a gate, that the trucks drive over, and that's approved by the fire department here.
The only difference I can think of, Frank, and I don't know if this is the reasoning, is that that isn't used on a daily basis. It's reserved only, so say if the
It
fire
is
trucks.
reserved only for fire trucks.
Right, so if the fire trucks did have to access it, they at least knew that it had never been driven on, so it's
Right.
still in good condition. I have heard them say that they will not take a fire truck off-road because of concerns that it would be stuck.
Stuck,
Now, I
right.
don't know if they are considering process as off-road.
There goes my
But-
donations. They won't go.
Yeah, because my,
Well,
my,
no,
my former driveway was all,
I'm
except for
in
the
an emergency
apron.
situation, they would get wherever they need to go.
Except for the
It's
apron,
by
it was
foot,
all
but-
processed. It was all processed.
Yeah.
And it was hard packed, and the water did percolate through.
I mean, honestly,
I
though,
have no debate.
Yeah.
It's
Talk
just
to the
what
fire
we're being told.
But I think you need to go back to the fire department and say the wetlands
The
doesn't.
wetlands says it's fine as long as that part is pervious
So just this portion here is pervious,
till the, past the
Till the
curve.
line.
Yep.
and then you're fine with the remainder being impervious. And just, I don't know
Yes.
that I said this out loud, this turnaround here was gonna be, pervious, and as
Right.
well as the parking lot.
Right.
That's
Okay.
inside,
So it's
outside the
just a-
200-foot.
Oh, that is going to
You-
be pervious? Okay.
you could push them
Yeah,
for
because
a process all the way.
they don't care about the parking lot.
I'd be
And-
more than glad to do that.
And
That's
I would
between you
I
and
would
them.
push the
Yeah.
gravel instead, if he'll let you do it.
It's far cheaper, so we're.
I know, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
No, we understand, you're trying to meet the requirements, the minimum, no, so, yeah, I think that's what they need to do. And I understand they have to do a little work around the apron and everything, because you have to get.
Oh, yeah, they gotta have
You
an
have to-
apron
you have a big-
there.
Right, they're gonna have to
They
grade a little
put
bit.
what, an 8 or
That's-
10-foot apron? I
I've
forget.
got like six.
Well,
six, eight.
the truck has to be able to get in without bottoming out,
Right.
whatever, that's fine, we understand that. I don't think anyone has a problem with that, right, if it's done once and done properly, so,
No, they're just gonna level out, so there's no
Yeah.
dip there.
right.
So if we do that combination, or if some miracle happens, then I can just go totally, gravel.
We're all fine.
That's even
We'll
better.
find it, And Carrie can take care of it.
We're out of your hair.
Yes. Does that make sense? Then we can,
Everything you said makes perfect sense, whether I can accomplish it or not is another question.
You will.
tell them that you have our
Yeah,
backing.
tell them
I'm
that
asking
Wetlands
the
said
truth.
this.
We directed you to do this, so
Mhm.
you can say that and see what they say.
Okay, well, that would be helpful.
Okay. And of course,
Any-
Carrie can
Any
work.
questions, any other?
So if this old driveway is being taken out, are you keeping the old well, or are you still putting that new proposed well in?
So the old well stays in. The proposed well is essentially a backup if this well doesn't function. And that's, the proposed well is something that, Department of Public Health is requiring us to look at.
Do you know when that's gonna be done?
When, it only has to be done if this well fails.
Oh, so it's not even being done as a backup now? Okay.
Because that's in the middle of the field,
Right.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a backup, and Regional Water Authority at least wants to see,
Where it would
heaven
go.
forbid,
Yeah.
if a well failed, because there is no municipality on Forest Road.
Yeah.
Right, is that what-
Can you do
so
it?
Let's wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, is it theoretically possible to have another well?
Right, is that, that's what. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think that can.
Good luck with them.
You may have to do that, but.
Who gets these?
So I'm going to keep this as application number 2019-17, and then we'll just see if it's something that I can review.
Okay,
And-
assuming that we'll work out these issues with the
Right.
pervious and non-pervious.
Right, okay,
I'll be looking to schedule something with fire.
okay.
Oh, okay. Very good. Good luck. Okay, so I guess the rest of the things under item 6, you're going to go over there. They fall under the duly authorized agent.
Yes.
Applications approved. You want to go over them?
Sure,
Gary?
so the first is a shed that was proposed within 100 feet of a water course at 123 White Hollow. It's in the backyard, wooded, again, minor, but they filed the application with me.
Are they putting footings in, or is it just laying on the
No,
ground?
just on the ground. So they completed that application and everything.
And they're not clearing any area?
No,
Is that like
it's
an
already.
existing lawn kind of thing?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
exactly.
This isn't the house they did all the clearing in the front, is it?
No.
No, it's across the street.
Oh, White Hollow, the one that there was a cease and
I'm
desist.
thinking Walnut anyway, yeah.
Oh,
The cease
okay.
and
I'm
desist.
thinking
Oh, I
Walnut.
remember that one.
Yes.
I'm thinking White House, or Walnut.
Okay. 435 Foxen Road rear. This is the one that the property owners had been in here. It was previously under 8 Tumblebrook. This is where you saw all this fill. There was like a mound of fill because they were working on their retaining wall.
Oh, and they dumped
So
it across
their
the street?
address,
That was the
exactly.
couple? Okay, good.
So their
Gotcha.
address was 8 Tumblebrook,
Oh,
but
yeah,
where
I
they were
remember this.
putting the
was across
material
street.
was at 435 Foxen
Oh,
Road rear.
okay,
That's why it has
yeah.
a different number.
I remember that number, yes.
So I went out there with Kurt, and he was like, no, this stuff has to come out, because that's how Public
Yeah.
Works accesses, there's a detention pond
Oh,
down here.
yeah.
So,
Didn't know that.
I denied the application actually, and
Oh,
said,
okay.
this is what you have to do, and they were okay with
They're
it.
just looking for
I-
direction,
It's under
right?
construction.
Yeah.
I thought that we had told them that we wanted the stuff removed.
Yes.
Right, and graded,
Well,
they're ready
but I
to move
think
it.
you had wanted Kurt's input, because he hadn't seen it yet at the time.
okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay. that's
So,
fine.
yep, so
So
they.
we're all in agreement.
Yes.
And they're okay with it, they just want, probably want
Yeah,
guidance.
they were
just wanna
fine.
do
They
what
just
you-
didn't
that's fine.
realize.
Okay, that's fine. No, they seemed very
Yeah, they're okay with
honest
it.
and upfront, but
Mhm.
they just want to fix it. Okay,
And they did pay double the fee because of doing work without a permit. Yep.
okay.
And then 391 Village Street, they were looking to install a pool. And one thing that's always challenging is that our GIS shows wetlands in areas that aren't really wet. So this area is showing as wetlands. It is within, it was 190 feet from this area, but the grade actually, the construction on this pool was not going to flow in. This was actually, this is higher than where the pool was.
Oh.
So they actually had to put silt fence like around here. But it was already lawn area.
I was gonna say, it's always, a pool's
Yeah,
always near the
and
house.
I mean, you
so-
can see right next door,
Right.
there's
They have
another.
one almost the same.
Which actually, they didn't file a wetlands application,
Oh.
but that was, years ago.
Oh, that was
so.
like prehistoric times, when the dinosaurs were here, yeah, okay. Woolly mammoths. Those were my times.
So that's that. I guess just one general comment for when we look at our regulations, and I don't know that we want to change this, but with the duly authorized agent applications, the fee is still the same, whether or not they come to the board or not. I don't know if that's of concern to you or not.
Should maybe be appropriately.
Should be higher.
So I don't know, that was just something that I've been
An
thinking about as I've been
expedition
reviewing these
fee.
applications. I'm like,
It's an
well,
expedition.
We should probably
it's the
re-
same fee, but they're not
Doesn't mean
coming
your
before a
passport, you gotta
board.
pay
I mean,
extra
there's the
fee.
same
Can we do best practices?
level of
I mean,
review, kind of, but there's not as many eyes looking at it.
But we haven't looked at the fees in what, 2 years now, 3 years?
Mhm.
So maybe we look at neighboring towns like we did the last time, and that's one of the things that we look
Okay.
at.
I mean, it
Okay.
sounds like a fair request.
I think that's
though.
a great, I agree.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have
Should be
raised
more.
them, when we raised them, considerably, our fees. If you look what we did, we pretty
Yeah,
much
and I
got
don't,
in
and I
line.
don't
Yeah,
really
and
want,
double
and
them
I don't
for
really
people
want
who
to
Yeah,
do
go.
it.
double, we're doing, so I mean, we've definitely.
And we don't really want to do that, have to do that again. Really, we should review these all the
Absolutely.
time.
No, we should be up, right, instead of waiting 10, 20 years until
Yeah,
we
because
find out
otherwise
the
it's not,
lowest in the lower
it's a
48.
huge bump as opposed
Yeah.
to,
Right.
minor, but I agree, if you're looking at it, it should be different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody cares.
I don't think it should be lower, though.
No?
No.
Should be safe.
I mean, look how quickly they're getting their
Service, yeah.
service with that in that
Don't have to
way.
deal with me.
You're right.
He's gonna make a buck here too.
Frank,
you
I'll
know?
take you.
Thank you, same here.
Here is the infamous.
Yes,
Wow.
that's it.
Black.
That is
The one that
it.
was ours?
Yep.
I
You
have
found
not
it?
found it in person, but I have a picture
I
of it.
think Carol
Oh.
took them.
I like those.
No,
I like that.
I think she mistakenly
Dina?
packed it when she packed up all her stuff.
With the great blue hair.
Because she had a whole stack of them.
She,
Yeah.
she left really
So,
quickly, I have a feeling. Yeah, it's a shame.
So Ken Newbig gave me sent me that photo today from one of the properties that he built at
Yep.
Brownstone Acres off of Middletown
Oh,
Avenue.
yeah.
So he thought that Carol worked with Friscolo Engineering, so that's my next place to contact. But I also talked with Fran Marola because he thought that he may have a contact of someone who could recreate that for
Mhm.
us. So he's gonna come back
Oh,
with a
yeah, with a
quote.
picture, it'd be very
Yeah, 'cause
simple.
it's metal.
Yeah,
Yep.
that could
Yep.
easily, with
But
that, that's a
just-
beautiful.
but the art- You know what, that's the same, literally the same artwork of the picture I sent you from Hamden.
Yes.
So you probably, I mean, because the
Right.
expense, I think, is the artwork.
Uh-huh.
So you probably can go to a neighboring
And just
town and
change
say,
the
can we
lettering.
get the artwork?
And just
and
change the
change
town
it
of
to-
North
Scratch out
Branford.
Hamden, put it North Branford.
And then
we're-
gets,
we're-
and
yeah.
then gets sued.
No, they wouldn't do
No.
that.
But
we
I
got a
bet you,
whole
I bet you
stack
if you
of
even
them.
go to the state, I can't believe the state doesn't even
I
have.
bet you there's some I bet you somebody has some templates that you could probably pick from,
Mhm.
like they're already,
Yeah.
already have a patent, that would let you. But
Yeah, I think it's great.
yeah, that would be perfect.
Yeah,
So
it's
this
in
wa-
process.
So they actually were made at one
Yes.
point.
Oh, yeah.
And-
We had them, we distributed
And
a whole
them.
bunch of
all
It
of
was-
them
it
got
was
used,
for
or
that
they
new
went?
big
No,
subdivision.
They're just
Yeah.
sitting somewhere.
And I believe he
I've never
paid
seen
for
them.
them.
Yeah.
Never seen
And we
them.
had a stack left over.
Yeah.
And
did. Oh, wow.
and they were probably packed away when Carol left.
They're probably in her trunk.
Yep,
Yep.
because he
Maybe
paid
no one can
for
find it, I
them,
know.
because we required them on his property, and then he just donated the rest to the
He-
town.
And he volunteered to pay for them, if I remember
Who
right.
did that?
Ken Newbig.
And then, yes, and then
Well,
I'm
and I
sure
asked
he did
him,
that.
I said, do you have any extras? He said, no. I just used what I.
No, he
what I
donated them
needed."
the rest to the town.
Hmm.
So I'll talk with Criscolo Engineering, maybe they have something. He thought, because he worked with them, so maybe they ordered it, is my hope.
I'm just wondering, we were at the old building then, weren't we? Or was we
No,
had
we were
moved
here.
We had just moved here, I was gonna say, because I know they are moving a lot of stuff.
No, it was from here. I
No, it
was
was
I was
here.
here, I was here.
Yes, you're right.
Because I was only here.
You're right, you
We
just.
both were here.
It's true.
So two other quick things. One is a potential enforcement in the making. So this is up in Northford, 1071 Middletown Avenue, Maneri Construction, next to the
again?
bottle
You
shop.
had that
Yeah,
before.
we've been here.
They've done
Yeah.
stuff,
I
yes.
think
So Tom Hogarty, our zoning officer, was out there today because he
dumping
received a
stuff.
complaint
Yep,
and he
and
was
it's
like,
getting
I've
huge
noticed.
back there. There's a huge
Yeah.
this
pile
is just
again.
one picture and
I
I
noticed
wasn't out
that,
there,
but I
so
figured he was
I
doing it right.
believe this is, like, the river area
Oh,
is
this
just beyond
is,
their
this is right in the
meeting.
buffer, I guarantee.
And I printed just one photo of like
I've seen it, but
10.
I thought he was
Then-
following what we were,
So this
we
was
told
all
him
bus
to do.
barn.
Yeah, I remember
It's-
that.
you think you're gonna issue a
I'm gonna work with,
And
well,
it's
so what I might do is,
Club
I'm gonna go out there, I may
Again.
issue a cease and desist,
Look at it,
and
you
then
gotta-
time it
yeah.
before the
Looks
next
like it.
meeting, so the show cause
Sure
hearing
does.
would be
Looks like
on
a-
September 25th.
Gotcha. Because that's a.
Yeah, and it's getting bigger.
Yeah, no, it's
No.
really bad.
So this is, you're going down Middletown Avenue and you pass Trailer Depot. and
Yes.
Yeah, and
and
Yes.
it's
then
short
the road
way
goes
after
back.
Trailer
It used to
Depot.
be
If
the
you're
bus.
coming
into
into
left.
Branford
It
Center,
used to
it's
be
on
the
the
bus
right.
place.
Yes, yeah, I'm thinking, I'm driving now towards New Haven, it would be on the left.
Yes,
Yes.
but before Trailer Depot
Yeah,
then.
Before
then
Trailer
they
Depot,
got
right,
the
right.
issue with the
It would
accident,
be-
remember?
so
that?
there's-
If you're driving towards New Haven,
It would be
Yeah, you're
before
right.
Trailer Depot on the left.
On the left, right, that's what I
I
thought.
thought it was after.
So there's that, then there's the
So,
bottle crib.
if you
and
come
then
off of
there's,
Village Street,
When you come
Jerry,
off
if you
of
come off of
Village.
Village and
yeah.
take a left, you'll go by the farm, and it's the very next
Yeah.
parking lot.
Yeah.
So you'll go by the farm, and
Oh,
then
then it's not
that
the
old,
front, then it
it's the old bus barn, and it's behind the old bus barn that
Yeah,
is
there's
piling up all the
ABC
stuff.
bus
All right.
stores or whatever.
Yes.
Since I sent you this in an email, but hopefully if it's okay, I bring it up, because we talked about culverts. We had the culverts that
Mark DeLongo.
Mark DeLongo
363.
was gonna do, and I know you gave me a response back to my note, but how do we move that forward? Is it even possible? Because there's nothing going on there, they're just giant pipes, I guess, denoting the property marking.
Right.
I mean, if you see
Oh,
them, they're
yeah,
like
some of
10-foot
those, yeah.
pipes.
Right.
But, I mean, my concern, my thought is that if our friend that was here a few minutes ago is gonna be able to do it in October, they should be able to take those
Mm.
culverts out in October too. Because their excuse the last time was, well, the weather wasn't,
Too wet.
but now, if he can do it, they should be able to do it. And that really was independent of the, of the,
Oh, yeah.
of the subdivision, because that wasn't supposed to be there, the metal pipes, the culverts.
Right.
I don't know, is there anything we can do?
I mean, I can talk with them. I think it's challenging.
I know.
They're using it as a, well, we didn't wanna do that until we did the subdivision, until we sold the land, because that hasn't even been sold yet. I don't know
Oh,
where.
it hasn't?
No. I don't know where that stands. They have the for sale sign for the lots, but they've been in talks with us about what the bond amount would be, and then the RWA about the water line, and
I'm actually
It's a
was
moving
surprised that they
target.
hadn't started construction after all the time they spent on it.
no, they don't have any permits, any approvals, or, like I say, they need the bond first, and then they've been talking with us, can you, tell us what the bond amount is, and we're like, it is what it is. So, I'll try and find out more, but then, so one other last thing, sorry to add these other things on there, but just kind of FYI, the intersection, so this is North Branford at the intersection of 22 and Route 1, so by Bill Miller's.
Okay.
They're putting in a traffic circle,
Oh, yeah.
What?
Rotary, yeah.
a rotary.
Yep.
On
Good.
Route
Roundabout,
One?
Yeah, that's been in the
Route 1
paper.
and
Yeah, it's been in the
22.
paper, yeah.
That's been in the
So
paper.
there's
They
no.
need
Think of
it.
the Cape, you ever try to get on the Cape and leave there on the roundabout?
Oh.
They need it there. It's a nightmare, that intersection.
It is, it
I
is.
go through there all the time.
Yeah, that's my route to work and back.
I mean, I was thinking.
But a rotary will move
Light,
things right through.
So there's no wetland impact in North Branford,
Yeah.
but they sent this to you all as a notification because they had to submit it to the state. The wetland impacts are more in Branford and Guilford, but in case anyone wants to look at it, just,
Yeah, it was in the register.
Yeah.
Let's see.
that was everything I had.
Okay.
I hope they don't do a rotary like Route 80 and 81, yeah, the killing one.
So you
That-
know what's interesting?
It's so tight, you can barely go.
We looked at that, Kurt looked at it on our GIS because you can scroll all the way over. So if you look at our GIS, you can actually scroll over, and he measured. So it's going to be supposedly the same diameter, but what's different about this rotary versus that one, the one in Killingworth is like a skate, like what I mean? It's like pinched, it's like,
It's terrible, it's really tight.
so it's,
Yes,
I'm not
it's like
gonna
when you
draw
turn
it correctly,
people
but it's
when they
like,
merge, you
it's
can't
like,
even,
Yeah.
there's
it's
no
like
room to
this
merge.
almost, like you have a road
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
as opposed to like this.
Right.
School buses have such a hard time.
So
with it.
the 22 and Route 1 should be more like this, more like a T.
Okay.
So more like the Madison one?
Yes, but not as big,
Not as
obviously.
big. Oh,
Like,
well, that'd be
that's
better, yeah.
enormous.
That's-
Which is so nice in one
Right.
sense because, if you're
Right.
going
There's
right
never a
and left,
problem to
yeah.
merge. Oh, there's never any problem.
No, the
But
one,
the one in Killingworth is just,
the
it's,
Killingworth one
there's
is
not
awful.
enough
So tight.
distance in between the two.
Awful.
Yeah.
I don't know how trailer trucks ever get around there. I mean,
Well,
it's
School
hard.
buses, school buses have
brickwork
such
is
a
the
hard
wall.
time
Right, oh,
around
I
that.
imagine, oh, yeah.
The brickwork is intended to
Yeah.
drive on. They expect you to drive
Yeah.
Oh,
onto the
the
brick.
wheels to come up, okay.
Yeah, so
Wasn't sure about
it's
that.
designed that way, and I think it's just crazy, but that's what they do.
Hopefully it looks good now, well, maybe we'll get it for traffic. So I guess we need just a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
Meeting adjourned.